to the 3-yard line to A-Chain. And A-Chain's got an opening. He's got world-class speed. He's gone. A-Chain takes it coast to coast. Touchdown, Aggies.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
Jacob Zeno, the quarterback, hands it off. Up the middle, McBride, and Dwayne McBride punches it in. Third touchdown today.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Deep drop over the middle. It's caught. Will Mallory makes a move at the 5. Dives into the end zone for Miami.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
At Iowa. Petrus pass complete. Laporta, touchdown!
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
Big hole for Spears. Across midfield, breaks a tackle. Tajay Spears inside the 10. Touchdown, Tulane.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Good afternoon on this Thursday. It is already past the halfway mark of February. Cold and blustery in Waco and Central Texas. Hope you've had a great day. David Smoak on set. Craig Smoak and Paul Catalina. Also today, Garrett Ross, Jack McKenzie join us in the studio. We have Jason Scheer, who covers Arizona. We haven't really had Jason on in a while. It's been a little bit since that USC-UCLA story back in the summer of last year, and then a few other times, even about Arizona. So he'll join us today. Kansas State Director of Athletics, Gene Taylor, today at 4:30. Plus, we'll also hear from someone who covers Notre Dame and Christian McCollum. They have an offensive coordinator. Craig Smoak's off the radar. Mickey Spagnola on the Cowboys. We'll also have Paul's top 5, but today we also start part of that series of NFL draft prospects in Mark Evans II. He's from Arkansas Pine-Bluff, but a star shooting up the charts, an unknown player that the pro scouts know all about. So we discussed this yesterday. Notre Dame has an offensive coordinator. We were like, okay, and there seems to be a lot of frustration with what's happened and how long it's taken, but they have promoted from within on their staff.
Yeah, they have, and I saw Andy Staples that kind of wrote a column saying, maybe they could have, or a mailbag saying they could have just saved us all the trouble and not been so public with their pursuit of Andy Ludwig. I guess that's kind of how it goes sometimes, but if they were just going to hire from within, also brought in Gino Jaguli from Cincinnati as their quarterback coach, and he was somebody who I thought might be on the radar for Cincinnati's job because he's a Cincinnati legend. He's been there forever, but someone who's worked with some good quarterbacks in the past and was a quarterback at Cincinnati. So he's there as well. It'll be interesting to see how their offense changes next year. And look, they've got to hit it right out of the park. They've got Sam Hartman coming in, and they've got potential to explode on that side of the ball. So better get this hire right because you've got 1 year with Sam Hartman before he's gone.
Before, Craig, you say anything else, I want to show this graphic that can lead to whatever you want to also talk about. This is Pete Sampson, who covers Notre Dame for theathletic.com. Here are the coordinators, the offensive coordinators Notre Dame has hired in the past 8 jobs that have been open. 5 of them, again, the Power 5 experience or not. Gerard Parker's the new one. He was promoted after Ludwig said no from Utah. 2 years. Tommy Rees, who's headed to Alabama, 1 year. But look before that. One game, yeah. Before that, Long, Sanford, Denbrock, Martin, Molnar, and Howard.
Haywood,
none of them had any kind of Power 5 experience while searching or adding to their list of offensive coordinators, and Parker's promoted from within on the staff. Christian McCollum will join us a little bit later on his take on this as well.
I guess they're getting more experience than they've had the last 2 hires. 1 game, 2 years, still more than none with like 5 straight OCs. So, yeah, I mean, it's not an inspiring hire. It's not a hire that they're running around and celebrating. It's kind of embarrassing to some extent that you had a guy sitting there at your basketball game and big bad Notre Dame with, dragging piles of money decided that they didn't want to open up and grab any more money out of the vault. And that's something that they've been very well known to do time and again, which is, I think, part of some of the frustration at times for certain fans or just people are observing on the outside of like, why are you penny pinching for if you want to get the guy from Utah, Andy Ludwig, and you think he's going to be the guy who can help you bridge this gap between strong independent and national championship contender, then why don't you go for it? And I don't know that there's been any explanation. Like, I'm obviously not receiving the Notre Dame emails from the AD and, those types of things that they send out. So maybe it's been addressed on, Irish Illustrated or whatever. But as outside observers, it's strange that they wouldn't just go all in if that's what needed to be done. But I also can appreciate the fact that they don't want to set precedents or live up to the ridiculousness of certain coaches' contracts. I just saw a graphic a little while ago of like the top 10 highest paid coaches in college football, and most of them are now making $9 million, or it's like the top 15, and most are making $8 million or more. And I think every single one of them, other than one, was from the SEC or the Big Ten. The only one that wasn't was Lincoln Riley. So he's about to be in the Big Ten, but every single of the highest paid coaches, like top 1 through 10 or 15, is all from those two conferences, which is not the TV deal yet, because those haven't kicked in yet. So that's, part of it for the SEC. The Big Ten's big deal's obviously coming up. But, the SEC's about to start up with CBS, and, it's just going to be more and more cash flowing. So I can kind of appreciate Notre Dame saying, no, there's a line we may draw here for an offensive coordinator. We're not going to pay him $2.5 million or $3 million or whatever. We'll let Auburn or Bama or those schools do that. And maybe that's not the case. Maybe they just felt like he's not worth the money. Whatever the case may be, it's an interesting decision to just stay in-house after all of that, and it can't be seen as anything but a disappointment. When you have a open public search of multiple candidates, and at the end of the day, you turn around, say, we're not going to pay that money for this guy, but we'll hire the guy who's been sitting here this entire time. That just seems very uninspired.
And the public kind of, hey, look who's here. Look who we have on campus. Basketball, maybe even a hockey a match was a game, that
That's
was
where they
going
were
on
hosting
as well.
him.
Yeah. So, all right, so there's Notre Dame, and we'll hear from a writer who covers Notre Dame. Paul, you knew him, had him on before, back, I think, during the bowl season. We'll come on in a little bit, about an hour, to discuss their search and what it all means and what's everyone saying in South Bend. Last night, Iowa State beat TCU. Iowa State has more wins against anyone in the AP Top 25 this season than anybody in America. They are 7-2. KU, Texas, and Kansas State have 5 Top 25 wins. Baylor's 4-3 against the Top 25. They're 7-2. College basketball teams with 7 or more wins against the Top 25, and there's one name, and it's Iowa State. And right now they're behind. They're tied for fourth because of the three-way clump at the top in the Big 12.
Yeah, they're giant killers. They get up for those big games. Like Coach Oxelberger's there has them just ready, locked in when it comes to those big moments. I mean, they've already torched Baylor and torched Kansas.
Yeah,
it wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't like they. Those games were at home, but they still you would expect okay, you get up for that game because you got to match their intensity. They eliminated Baylor and Kansas intensity in that game. There was no intensity from the other team because they just torched them. So they're a team in the tournament. If you look at that's got to be pretty scary because clearly they understand the moment of this game is important. Let's go have some fun. That's a terrifying team to me.
Yeah, they're really, really good, and they're in fourth place in the Big 12 with time left, 8-5 on the year, just a game back of Kansas Baylor. One of those two's got to lose. Texas also is at 9-4. A&M.
If they can play every game at home,
yeah,
that'd be great.
No,
but
and it is a great atmosphere, and a lot of people have never been there. I've mentioned that before. It is a wonderful place. That doesn't mean that they don't struggle. Haven't had their struggles, but right now they've got it going. TJ's got it going for Iowa State. Number 1, Alabama beaten. Remember, they were smothered by Oklahoma. Then they had a nice run, and they played Tennessee last night. The Vols, who were like right on the precipice of number one, even beat Texas a couple of weekends ago. They won, beat Alabama last night, so they made – again, in college basketball, you could even lose, and understandably so, and still remain number one because everybody seems to be beating everybody. So that was one of the things from last night, and Tennessee is a top 10 team. And then this is a neat – I knew Buzz Williams back when he was a young coach in junior college. A&M, it's been a while. I mean, they've had a team or two that's been pretty good. A&M is 11-2 in the SEC, and they beat Arkansas. And when I laid down to kind of crash last night, Arkansas was pretty much in control of that game, maybe up 9 or 11. I wake up, I see the score. The Aggies are 11-2 in the SEC in basketball.
It was going to happen eventually under Buzz Williams. He's too good of a coach, and sometimes it's just about getting the right mix of players in there. They had so much fluidity between the last couple of coaches, and was it Kennedy? Coach Kennedy had to retire. I mean, like
he had some health issues.
Got the job and found out he had some health problems, and then eventually had to retire. So they kind of had to navigate that for a little while. And now that they're Buzz is there and rolling along. It was eventually going to happen there for Buzz Williams. He's too good of a coach to be in the middle of the pack in the conference.
Well, it's a heck of a nice win for them. Arkansas, as Baylor knows, and anyone who was at that game a couple of 2 or 3 weekends ago, Arkansas gave Baylor every possible thing they could, and that's what they do to a lot of people. But a nice win for A&M at 11-2 atop the SEC. And in the SEC, Alabama, the number one ranked team that was just beaten, they're the ones that are at the top, of course, in the conference race, but A&M right behind them. Alabama's 12-1, the loss to Tennessee. A&M is at 11-2, and there's a little bit of drop-off to Tennessee and Auburn and Kentucky right after that. All right, Baylor has announced, and a lot of schools have, their spring football game will be on April the 22nd. That also sets up pretty much everything else you need to know about the time they'll start their spring drills and much more. They'll have their green and gold game that came out April 22nd is coming up. Of course, that's 2 months from now, Baylor and their spring game. I really, the new coaches, some of the changes, the quarterback competition, players who have come and gone, a lot of players transferred, a lot of them have come in, will be very interesting to me. And we haven't really talked much about that, but it's almost time to do that too. Outside of the quarterback position, what is the most intriguing competition among the running backs or wide receivers, defensive backs? What is the one that maybe intrigues you the most?
Offensive line.
Well, yeah,
they're likely going to have 5 new starters, 4 if you count Gavin Byers coming back and playing, but they're going to have 4 or 5 new starters. And while I think the Baylor faithful should have faith in Eric Mateos to coach them up, and they've got the Barrington brothers as transfers, and they've got some experience of guys that should be ready to go behind them. That's still a lot of snaps that you've got to replace on the most critical position on the field. Offensive line to me is the most intriguing for Baylor. And maybe even more so than the quarterbacks, because I kind of have a figure in my head of how that's going to go. So
how's that?
I think it'll be pretty back and forth, and they'll probably be in about the same spot with either guy. I think they're equal talent-wise. Blake Shapen either has to take a step forward or he won't, or Sawyer Robertson's going to get his job. I know that there's some intrigue there, but it may not even matter if the guys in front of them can't keep people off them.
Yeah, it's pick a place. Really, they aren't exactly just, stout anywhere that you look. You expect a bump up from guys who are just a year older, but that's not a guarantee. So quarterback is probably the one that'll get the most attention, or it's not even probably, it'll definitely get the most attention. A lot of people putting a lot of faith in Sawyer Robertson to win that starting job, even though we haven't seen really anything of him at the college level. So that's all going off of, I think, disdain or dislike of Blake Shapen, or distrust of Blake Shapen's game. And also, what Sawyer Robertson can do on the film that people have seen. But I'm excited to see them actually out there side by side competing, because I don't think you just take for granted that Blake Shapen's played as much football as he's played in comparison to Sawyer Robertson. Now, maybe that doesn't make his ability to throw in the pocket any better. And Sawyer Robertson's better at that. Maybe Sawyer Robertson's equally as good about being able to throw on the run, although that's hard to imagine. I mean, maybe one of them's just a tad better leader. I don't know. But I know that there's already people predicting Sawyer Robertson will take the job, and I just don't think Blake Shapen's going to go down without a fight. And I also don't think we'll probably even know anytime in the next few months, because I don't see what the point would be in naming a starting quarterback after spring ball.
Yeah, there won't be a decision like we've seen where last year they said, hey,
the loser goes and transfers.
Yeah,
I mean, basically is what that was, and we knew that going in, that whoever doesn't get the job is probably transferring. That's not going to be the case, you wouldn't think, here. And to avoid that, you probably don't do it, because if it is Sawyer Robertson, then there are chances that Blake Shapen goes and transfers, and then you're back in the exact same spot you were, and you're even less experienced. So they're going to have to be, smart about that, which to me would mean, you name the starter in August of, 2023 here in the next few months, and not in April of 2023 like you have done previously. So that one's going to be obviously the one that most people talk about. But O-line, new running back, Dominic Richardson, and also, is who else besides Quaylon Jones? And, obviously with Tay McWilliams, is he even back at this point? Richard Reese, that should be an interesting room. But you could go up and down the roster. I think they've got lots and lots of questions that they're going to have to answer. But O-line was probably, there near the top, and quarterback always will be.
All right, a couple of you, I think Scotty B might have been the one that mentioned that A&M, when I mentioned their men's basketball team, their non-conference schedule is pretty weak, but obviously a nice run. Boise State beat them in a nice win for Boise State. Katie Rader, looks like Smokey got his ears lowered. I did. When do you know it's time to get a haircut? Is there just a look you have? Is it the ragged hair around your ears? For me, it's the curl that starts to develop, and, of course, I don't have much hair in the first place.
Yeah, I have two indicators now. It's up here and here. So
your beard affects when your haircut needs to?
Yeah, because I get them done at the same time. So when there's a delicate balance of where it's like exactly where I want it, and then one will be where I want it and one won't, and then that's where it comes. So I'll probably be doing that this weekend.
I just look at it, and I can tell it's that time. By the way, Paxton, I mentioned Tiger birdied one. He bogeyed a par 3-4. He's back to even par, and so I'm not watching the rest of the leaderboard the rest of the day. All right, there's a lot to get to. Again, we have numerous guests, starting at 3:45 with Jason Shear. If you think you're cold or under the snow where you are, Max Olson from theathletic.com, usually Thursdays at 4, sent me this shot out in front of his yard earlier today. This is in Lincoln, Nebraska. Now, all right, looks like snow, right? There's snow everywhere. You would think there would be snow everywhere in Lincoln and areas around that part of the country. That little black thing sticking out of the snow is a 1 foot long, 12-inch ruler. It looks like a periscope, like coming out on a submarine. So that is basically, and that was from earlier this morning, 1 foot of snow. That was from basically overnight in Lincoln, Nebraska. So he has kids today because they're not going to school today.
I don't do math very well, but at least by the time you put that out there, it's 11 inches. Yeah. He's got a little bit of time. So, yeah, it's probably, I don't know if it kept snowing in Lincoln or not, but, man.
I'd like to be able to enjoy something like that, but actually have my power on.
Yeah,
it's not fun when you don't have power and it's like that outside.
No, it's not.
Greg Abbott, state of Texas.
It would be nice to have an occasional little snow flurry that kind of, it was interesting. In Lincoln, they have a snow day. You would think that their day off or their extra school day or a day off of school would be like when it's 90 or something like that. You'd think the snow day, but obviously it snowed quite a bit, so Max is not going to join us today. But we will have a guest in Christian McCollum on Notre Dame at 4 o'clock. Okay, when we come back, we'll get to some of the comments in the chat room as well. Also,
has the Pac-12 signed a TV deal yet?
Not yet.
Nope, that drags on, huh? Another day. Not that there's a time limit, but just wondering.
No.
I can't look on Twitter now without seeing expansion talk, and I'm not diving full into it. But, yeah, it's just interesting. I'm wondering how long we have this storyline ongoing of, like, when they finally drop the bomb of whatever it is, Amazon, ESPN, and whatever they do. But, yeah, just bringing that up because that's obviously been the hottest topic in college sports. But no news to report on that today, it appears. Nothing that I've seen or that I don't think y'all have seen either. So
no,
we wait. We wait on more information.
There's nothing there. There's still nothing there.
And that's not a shot at the Pac-12, by the way. Just bringing it up because, like I said, that's been the biggest story. It's very possible. I'm very interested in the scenario of what happens to a lot of our Big 12 brethren when the Pac-12 announces their TV deal and it's like $100,000 more than the Big 12 TV deal per team. I'm just waiting for what that reaction might be like. And it's maybe it doesn't happen.
To me, it would be God bless them.
Yeah, but for a lot of people we know who have been talking mad trash for the last year.
I've seen some attacking now
from
going
both sides.
on. Yeah, from both sides. You're dead in the water. You might as well. And I've also still seen some pretty angry tweets back at others, or at least taking pot shot at a fan base, mouth breathers that the Big 12 fan base has been called by a handful or maybe even one or two people. All right, when we come back, more from the chat room. But yeah, Greg, we ought to now have like a calendar that we flip every day, and good luck to them on that. We do know that Brett Yormark was on a podcast, the John Wilner podcast. Jason Scheer, he's going to join us. One of the things Yormark brought up to them was the basketball part of it, wanting to monetize basketball and how that will play a role in expansion. We're having Jason on to discuss that. Well, Dave Hickey is Arizona's athletic director. And so the tweet was, he's talking straight to him. Nobody in the Pac-12, UCLA we know is on their way to the Big Ten. Their history is incredible back in the days of John Wooden and a couple of other national titles, but directly talking to a school that is really, really good and loves their men's basketball in Arizona.
Well, how do you grow something? I mean, that, football is going to continue to grow and it's going to continue to be the giant. But what Brett Yormark is looking at, okay, if NFL football is the most popular thing to watch and college football is the most second popular thing to watch, and the NBA is the third most popular thing to watch, what should, if the first thing is true, the fourth thing be? It should be college basketball. And that's only true for 1 month a year because of the tournament, which is extremely valuable. But they don't just play 1 month a year. They play from November to March.
Yeah, it's almost like November to March is there.
It's there, and there are fantastic. I mean, ESPN does a great job, I think, of highlighting it and showing it in CBS and everybody who has big games.
Well, the Kansas-Baylor game is getting an enormous, as it should.
Yeah.
The last two national champions are playing this Saturday, game day, etc.
Yes, but it doesn't happen across the board the way that it does for football. So if you want to bring stuff up, then that's how you're going to make more money. And the Big 12 is never going to be the number one football conference, or at least not in a realm that we can fathom, because it's always going to be the SEC, whether that's completely true or not, because they've built it up that way. So everybody's vying for number two, correct? So how do you accelerate what you have? Well, the Big 12 is the SEC in football of men's basketball right now.
Yes.
They are that. So let's water that lawn and make sure it grows.
And by the way, the lawn is not just the one in the front yard. There's all that lawn in the side and the backyard, which you mentioned, because of the fact the season starts in November. All right, when we come back from the chat room, we'll look at a couple of your comments, whether it's on the Pac-12 and what might be next for them. That's a constant story until something actually is released and official. And then also even your thoughts about some other college football. If you're a Notre Dame fan, and I know we have some of you that get on, your thoughts, was it frustrating to watch what was going on with the offensive coordinator search? Because when Tommy Rees's name came up for Notre Dame, Michael, who's a huge Notre Dame fan who watches the show, he was like, please take him. And you still might be happy, but are you now with what you have instead? And that may be one of the questions we ask McCollum when he comes on here in about 40 minutes. This is 365 Sports. Pioneer Steel and Pipe, located on the Loop just east of I-35 in Waco. New facility, more than twice the size of their old facility, which was opened in 1943, which also allows them the larger facility to carry new inventory, higher quantities of inventory in a much more organized fashion. In addition to their standard long lengths and tubing, angles, channels, rods, and flat, they now carry several shorter, more convenient lengths of material and already cut material to save time and you trying to figure out how am I going to get this from Pioneer Steel and Pipe to wherever the construction site might be. They have a new 2,500 square foot showroom with over 1,000 new products in stock. And also, of course, they have components for whatever project you need. Do it yourself if that's what you want to do. Carrying Quickcrete, so you can now get your post, pipe, hinges, latches, concrete for your fences and gates, saving you the time having to go several places for that material. Bigger, better, faster, stronger, but the great, incredible, how long have they been doing the customer service? Well, since 1943, pioneerboys.com.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year. Whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon wrap fillets to T-bone to bone-in ribeyes, cut specifically the way you want. They have Norwegian salmon fillets, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey and lunch meat, variety of cheese available, and several options of sausage links, fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, ground beef, marinated beef, and chicken fajitas, and always large briskets available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and family tradition of the Bauer family continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday. A full-service butcher shop and bakery available. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Devil Frog on the chat room. Can the Big 12 use that $100 million? It's actually about $80 million, according to what Mac Rhodes and others have said and reports. $20 million going to Fox on the exit fee to buy Notre Dame's exit fee from the AC. No, Notre Dame's not joining the Pac-12. $80 million wouldn't do it. I don't know what number would do it if there was a number. They're in a great spot. As Paul mentioned yesterday, there's no need for Notre Dame to do anything differently than what they're doing. They're attached to a conference. They're independent at the same time. They can do whatever they want. And until college football forces them in another way other than how it is now, for them to be able to have to join a conference or whatever there are needed metric, there's no need for them to do anything in football.
All right, let me compare it to also how powerful Notre Dame is, and that their athletic director, Jack Swarbrick, he has the same amount of power in charge of one school that the other 4 Power 5 commissioners have in charge of a lot of schools. The same thing. That would be like 5 people, like 5 world leaders meeting, and it's the President of the United States, Germany, Japan, England, and Israel. We're not Israel, like those 4, and then a guy who is the governor of Missouri. Like he's just in charge of Missouri, yet somehow has this much power that everybody else does. And so there's no reason to change for them. There's no, yes, there could be more money in the Big Ten, but that also comes with taking away their place at the table of having to make decisions that affect everybody else, and they're just one school. So the other Power 5 conferences all have to, their weight is as much as one school, which that's not really a dollar figure you can put an amount on, especially when, their TV deal, you know who it goes to? Them. Yeah. It doesn't have to go anywhere else. They negotiate it right here. Boom, boom. Every football TV deal that they have is with them. So everything.
There's no revenue sharing. And then on top of that, they get money from being attached to the ACC.
Yeah. And so you don't have to worry about, for football, they don't have to worry about a year where it was a little down this year, or this happened and we've got to split the conference this way, or there's this. No, it's just to them. So if their TV deal with NBC is $30 million a year, that's less than everybody else, but they get the 30 straight to them. There's nobody else in the mix. And that's just power you can't buy.
I mean, how about the fact that they were, basically given an advantage in the 14 playoff? How do you think it'll be in a 12-team playoff?
Well, they'll be fine.
Yeah, they'll be really good.
If they had the advantage in 4, what do you think? Yeah, then they'll be just fine.
I haven't seen a single reason explained as to why it makes sense for them to jump. I mean, when we were talking about it back during the USC UCLA days, at least that made some sense because Kevin Warren was threatening to basically, burn down houses and letting it be as vague as possible so that everybody just had to cower in fear of what the next move might be and whether it was just going to disintegrate their backyard and their neighborhood. And nothing ever ended up happening again because he got the LA schools, and now we know the rest of it. He's not even there, or he's closed down his final days. I don't know what the exact exit date was, but he's leaving. And with that, it seems like the idea of them expanding and pursuing Oregon, Washington, like was the big hot rumor again when all this started, that has quieted down and calmed down and doesn't appear to be happening in any way, shape, or form. So if you're Notre Dame, what rush are you in? Because the big argument a year ago was, well, if they don't do something, they're going to get left out. But what are they going to get left out of? The playoffs growing bigger. If the SEC and the Big Ten are the 2 big dogs, which they are, Notre Dame's still going to be Notre Dame. They're not going to be any less just because they're not in one of those 2. They'll still be, respected more than any of the other remaining conferences. And, they're on their own with their own rules and their own money and their own schedule and their own everything with no pressure really in any way, shape, or form now. The whole storyline was Kevin Warren's going to make Notre Dame join the comp. Remember that? Kevin Warren's going to force their hand. Kevin Warren's going to if they don't do it now, they're going to be left out in the cold if Kevin Warren gets his way, and Kevin Warren this and that. And, nothing ever ended up happening or coming close to happening to our knowledge with that. So if they weren't feeling the pressure to do it then, why would they be feeling it now? Why would they feel it now? It's way less pressure at this point because you know that everything's kind of settled, or at least it appears so. And, the Pac-12 may go add a couple of schools, but that doesn't mean anything to Notre Dame. That means absolutely nothing to them. So, yeah, I just don't think it makes any sense for them at the moment. I don't think it, makes really all that much sense for too much more monumentally to happen, quite frankly, in this go-around, even though I know the speculation is always going to be for the bigger move, the better. But I think we're kind of entering a period where you're looking at probably the Pac-12 adding a couple of schools, and they'll celebrate over that. And then beyond that, I don't really know what would be next outside of the Big 12 and whatever they may be speculating on doing. But
not until the timelines of the next TV deals,
like the 2030 is
5 to 7 years.
Here in 5 to 7 years, I think is when you could see that whole redo of everything, or not redo, but that whole remix again. And then some speculate that in 15, 20 years is maybe when you see it to where it is the NFL truly with, like 24 teams. And sorry, Vanderbilt, sorry, Purdue, or, whoever you want to, point there. I don't know that I'm ready to go that far just yet, but I wouldn't put it past anybody that Alabama's like, no, we're not going to share our profits with Vanderbilt any longer. So those are the stages that I kind of see coming up, that 2030-ish when everybody's TV deals come up again, and then after that maybe another narrowing down. But in terms of like this big sweeping motion for the one to overtake the other, I don't see that right now. It just doesn't add up to me.
If you ever see a report or even a quote or a comment, speculation about anybody saying that we probably don't need to all be sharing equal revenue inside the SEC, that's when it'll be interesting, because they have always said no. They've always protected even the ones that need the chicklings. They've always protected all of the family. And that's what's going to be interesting when Texas enters along with Oklahoma in the SEC, because they've been a part of a conference at times where it's been quite the opposite. All right, so Roger Dodger goes, turns out Notre Dame is a banana republic. I then asked this question, and we have Jason Scheer coming up, and we really need to stay on time when we hit everybody because there's a lot to do. So be honest. Not just talking, not trolling. Be honest. What do you think is truly going to end up with the Pac-12 when everything is eventually released here, whenever it might be? End up who they are with what they have with minus USC and UCLA? That's hard to imagine, but remain the same. That's one. Adding a team or two, or I guess two, or do you feel like there's a legitimate, not just what you may think or what, and then some of you have this hope, a little crazy, but hope that they fall apart, and maybe it's because you think it'll help your own conference or you just don't like them. So there's my question on the chat room for those of you who are there. Jacob, at SMU and San Diego State, unless the TV contract tells them to pick other schools up for more money. And who those other schools might be, again, remains to be seen.
I see some still throw. I mean, we probably don't need to worry about like every tweet, because it's Twitter and there's just a lot of insanity out there. I'm not saying this part's insane, but I have seen it enough now that I understand it's not a big talking point. But you see some even Pac fans that are like, well, maybe the Pac's going to swing and grab like Texas. It's like, that's not happening at this point. That's not going to happen. They are not in that position of power. I don't know what planet you're living on, but that's not going to be the big swing. And if it was, that'd be like the most shocking turn of events, in college football history. If that were to happen, that is not going. If it happens anyway, it would be the Big 12 taking. But I'm saying right now, and I've said pretty much this entire time that we've talked about it here recently, that I don't see that happening either. I think the only moves that make logical sense at this point is like the Gonzaga basketball move, or obviously SMU, San Diego State to the Pac. But outside of that, I don't see anything happening.
Roger, I think the Pac-12 gets a TV deal done. They expand by 2, and USC and UCLA, of course, move on.
I don't think the conditions are ripe for it now. I do think that there's a school of thought that you can kind of go one way or the other on, and I kind of change throughout the day is, the conditions for degradation are there. Like, the foundation is weak. They've got to do some things to strengthen that up. And if they don't make the right decisions here right here in this moment, then talk to me when that TV deal is up, and I'll tell you that it's going to be, an episode of The Last of Us in the Pac-12. It's just going to be, the end of it.
Is there how they're fragile? Is it because of termites, as an example or an analogy, or because of just something that they could not prevent?
I think it is neglect on some of the bigger issues. I think that they're kind of here, and then for a long time, if you look at and they've always been a more volatile conference than we even realized going all the way back to their origins. But I think they do get a little bit of tunnel vision. And then last summer is what they were like, holy crap, we didn't even think about this. And so now they've got to think about all these things that they have not thought about or put out of their head. We don't need to worry about that. We don't need to worry about that. And it's all kind of happening at once. So they either have to figure it out now or over the next time, or again, the foundation's going to get weaker. But we'll see. We'll see where that goes.
Scotty B, I think Pac-12 will break apart. Announcements will be made. Some schools will leave for the Big 12, whoever they might be. He mentioned the four corner schools. I don't know if this is going to be the four group that leave, if in fact ever anyone leaves. And then Zona Tucson 93, we got a segment coming up for you. We need to be in the Big 12. And whether that's what the administration wants or the university overall or whoever, athletic department, remains to be seen. And then, Roger, again, I think the Pac-12 does get that done, and they move on by expanding to a couple of schools. Whatever the money might be remains to be seen. All right, when we come back, Jason Scheer, Wildcat Authority, covers Arizona. We found Jason, it's been back in the summer of last year. I think we may have had him on prior to that on Arizona basketball over the year, maybe a year before that with Baylor making their run for the national championship. But he's next. Jason Scheer. How does Arizona look at this, and what is from his perspective about what's not going on? This is 365 Sports. Don Chubador and Coffee Beans in the Tower Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco. I mentioned this, I think maybe even on Tuesday or last week at the Super Bowl, I had a humidor. It's a box humidor that you could probably put 50 to 75, maybe even more cigars in it. And for some reason, the cigars I ordered or picked up, when I would go to smoke one when I was playing golf, they were dry and a little bit fragile and brittle. And so I took my humidor in. Ashley's fixed it before they can treat it, and then next thing you know, it's working like it should. Plus, you have to have certain things in there to make sure the moisture is right, the humidity is right. And so it was a crack in the back, and so I basically just got rid of that one and bought another one. And the last time I went to smoke a cigar on the golf course was not last weekend or the one before that. Every one of those cigars, when I lit them and started to smoke them, they had the ash in the end that was about almost an inch or so long, which means it's tight. It's smoking well, and there was no issues with it being too dry or them being too dry. Don Humidor and Coffee Beans, they have the accessories, the cutters, the lighters, the humidors, the pouches to keep the humidity where it needs to be, and, of course, a 48-foot walk-in humidor. And I always mention their gummies, Vita Dreams, to help you get a more relaxing, restful, and comfortable sleep at night. It's Don Humidor and Coffee Beans in the Townwest Shopping Center, Valley Mills in Waco.
Kick off 2023 with a bang at Allen Samuels in Waco. During the President's Day sales event, get a 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo with total values up to $2,000 and 1.9% for 72 months on second and third row options. That's right, 1.9% for 72 months plus rebates. Or how about the 2023 Jeep Gladiator Sport with up to $3,500 in total values plus an extra $500 to first responders at Allen Samuels in Waco.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Chuck Verno, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Chuck Verno, 720 North 64th Street in Waco, 254-732-1161. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend's Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
We have Kansas State AD Gene Taylor at 4:30 today. We'll discuss Notre Dame's offensive coordinator search that ended finally. That's at 4 o'clock today. We have a lot to get to, including Jason Scheer, WildcatAuthority.com, covers Arizona, covers the Pac-12, and is a guy we've gone to quite a bit the last year and a half, but not as much of late. And Jason joins us on 365 Sports. Jason, thanks for your time. So from your perspective, you put up a tweet, I think it might have been a day or two ago, about the Brett Yormark podcast with John Wilner. And you said Yormark talking directly to Dave Hickey, I hope I got that right, in the podcast with John Wilner, the hotline, monetizing basketball. Was that like a laser beam right between the eyes for Arizona?
Yeah, I mean, that's what it felt like because, you know, when you look at the Pac-12, Arizona football is clearly not as good as Arizona basketball. And in this town, Arizona basketball is number 1, 2, and 3. And that's one of the big reasons why Arizona fans, are looking towards the Big 12. And so when Yormark goes and says that, and you look around at the conference and the teams that are left after USC and UCLA are gone, it just totally felt like that comment was, hey, Arizona, I think basketball is important, and I'm going to get you money off basketball. And so that one was definitely heard loudly here.
Jason, where between the fans and the university, and we've asked you this before, but as things have continued to drag out with the television deal and there is some confusion about what the overall goals of every institution are, where is the university in relation to what a large segment of the fans want is to look at another league?
I think that the university itself is willing to let things play out. And there's people within the administration that have said from day one that the money isn't going to be there. And eventually it's going to be time to move if it's not there, but they're willing to kind of wait and give the commish a chance to raise it. And nothing's changed from that perspective. I mean, as of today, the money is not there. And eventually we're going to get to a point, and I've heard that there's kind of a deadline and of mid-April after the NCAA tournament of saying, look, if we don't have a deal by then, it's time for us to really start seriously looking around, because you're within a year of the deal ending with the Pac-12, and you got to do what's best for your school. And so, I don't want to say that Arizona or other schools are anxious to leave, but it's become the point where they're like, okay, they're willing to let the process play out. It's just not headed in a direction that I think anyone is confident in right now.
Jason, how excited do you think Arizona fans would be about San Diego State and SMU as new conference mates?
It's not being met with very much excitement. I think there's a lot more understanding with San Diego State. California, the research money and all that. Arizona has played San Diego State plenty in both sports, West Coast. It makes sense. When SMU was announced as the second team being looked at, or leaked as the second team being looked at, I don't even think it's just Arizona fans. I think most casual observers were basically saying, why? It's not – it's in Dallas, it's not a part of the major Dallas market. It's in Dallas, but it's not like it's a big thing in Dallas. The football isn't very good. The basketball is awful as of late, and it doesn't. You're replacing USC and UCLA with San Diego State and SMU, and there's such a gap between those two, and it just San Diego State, I think people can kind of convince themselves it's okay. I think SMU is going to have a really tough time, and one of the reasons we're hearing SMU, I think, is because they're willing to basically come into the conference for very, very little money. And so maybe from an admin, from a commission standpoint, it makes sense. But from a fan perspective, there's just no attraction there.
Jason, if Arizona was to pick up the phone, or if somebody else in the Pac-12 was to pick up the phone and call Arizona and say something to the effect, I'm tired of this, who would it be that they would be attached to, in your opinion?
To me, I think that a lot of these schools, maybe even every school in the conference, is waiting for Oregon and Washington to figure out what they're doing. Whether, I've heard rumors as of late that they're interested again in going to the Big Ten and willing to do so at a much smaller share just to kind of get in there. The ACC rumors have picked up as of late. But I think if you're in Arizona, if Oregon and Washington aren't signing on to the Pac-12, once they leave, the conference as we know it is dead. I think that if an Oregon or Washington called Arizona and said, you know what, we're leaving, Arizona would say, sign us up, we're going where you're going, and if not, we're still leaving, because those are the two schools that I think everyone's kind of looking to right now.
Jason Scheer, 247 Sports Wildcat Authority, with us on the Arizona perspective and what's happening right now in the Pac-12.
But, Jason, isn't there at least some apprehension from the standpoint that where are Oregon and Washington going to go? With Kevin Warren out of the picture now, it appears like that expansion of the Big Ten may have slowed down to a bit of a trickle. I understand the Big 12 is the option, so would I guess the assumption be that they maybe would look at the Big 12, or you see what I'm saying there, or they would just stay in Pac? Where would that exodus come from in your mind if it's not going to be the Big Ten?
Yeah, it's tough. Does the ACC make a play? Do we hear the Notre Dame movement again? I'm very confident in saying that your Mark is trying to get Oregon and Washington in the Big 12. I think that is his top dog. That's what he wants. That is what would make the biggest splash. Is it going to be easy to do? I don't know. Again, it comes down to the money. If you're paying Oregon and Washington $25 million, they're not staying in the Pac-12. I don't know where they're going, but they're not staying in the Pac-12. For all intents and purposes, they could go independent and make that money. It doesn't make sense. Maybe, and even if they try to make more with, unequal revenue sharing, other schools wouldn't go for it. It's kind of just, I completely get your question. And to be honest, I don't have a clear answer. I know the Big 12, is trying to get Oregon and Washington more involved. I know the ACC rumors, and I've heard that Oregon and Washington have basically told the Big Ten, this is when Kevin Warren was there. So who knows what the new commission will do, but they basically said, we'll come in for less for now and kind of, pay for ourselves a little bit just to make sure that we're in a better conference. So I do think, I find it hard to believe that Oregon and Washington won't have options But right now, I'm not clear on what those options will be.
Jason, say they do get a TV deal done, and the way that all of them are going is they're shorter term. Nobody wants to get locked in to the ACC kind of thing where it's from here until forever, and they do get it done. What do they have to do as a conference during the duration of that deal to make sure that they're not just polishing the brass on the Titanic?
I'm of the opinion that even if they sign a deal, it's kind of just biding time for the next time this happens. It'll be like a 5-year deal, and we'll be doing this all over again, probably with, the Pac-12 definitely breaking up or looking different. But they got to – the way this deal is set up, or is probably going to be set up, is with heavy streaming. And they just got to hope that over the next, let's say, 5 years, streaming takes off. And it becomes the dominant – choice for viewers. Basically, the risk that other conferences weren't willing to make pays off for the Pac-12. And that's the hope. And then maybe they add a couple more schools. Maybe they go and they extend to 14 instead of 12 and kind of get other markets there. But, to me, it's the way the deal, if it does get signed, is going to line up is that it's going to be heavy streaming. And if streaming doesn't take off, like George is probably telling the presidents, the ADs, that it'll take off, the conference is going to be right back where it started, if not in worse shape, when that contract is over.
Jason, what is the alignment, if any, between what Arizona thinks and what Arizona State thinks?
I think they're relatively aligned. I don't see a scenario where one goes without the other. And I think that we're at a point where, ASU at first was very strong with the we are Pac-12, we are sticking together. I think they backed off that a little bit. I'm not saying they're willing to kind of jump, but I think they backed off and said, okay, we understand that maybe everything we were told isn't the truth, or is it going to come to fruition? So I think they have an open mind. I think basically most teams in the conference right now have an open mind, maybe not like a Washington State and Oregon State, schools like that, because they obviously want the Pac-12 to stay together. But I think the longer this goes on, the more wandering eyes you're going to see, and you're going to see schools like ASU, Arizona, Colorado, Utah kind of start to look around and say to themselves, you know what, maybe staying in this conference isn't the best scenario for us because the money just isn't there.
Would you say the Pac-12, at least outside of USC and UCLA, that for the most part everybody's pretty much where they were a week or two after USC and UCLA's decision or that story, or do you feel like it's a little more fragile?
I think it's a little more fragile. I think that you're starting the impatience within the conference is growing. And I think after USC and UCLA made the decision, there was kind of a coming together of the conference that said, we're going to get through this. And the commission said, look, I'm going to get you $40 million a school. Right. And so, and they were like, okay, let's get this done. Well, now it's February. There's no deal. And what the commission told you months ago, nothing has come to fruition. It hasn't, the timeline isn't there. The money isn't there. The network so far isn't there. So I think what you're seeing is it's a lot more fragile than it was. And if there's no deal a month from now, I'll say it's even more fragile a month from now than it is now. That situation is only going to get worse until the contract is done.
Was that Pac-12 statement of unison, was that something what did you think of that when you saw that?
It means nothing to me. I never really read into those statements. What I took from it was, there was a report in The Athletic. There was a couple other reports where, every negative report on the Pac-12 was from someone outside the conference or unnamed sources, etc. This article in The Athletic was from someone within the Pac-12, basically. And I think that freaked out, the administration in the Pac-12, in the commissioner's office, because they said, wow, okay, now it's coming from the inside. We have to be able to show strength. Because even, let's say reports come that the Pac-12 could break up any day or whatever, no network is going to make a bid on a conference that is ready to break up. So you kind of, in order to maximize your ability to get a bid and to maybe get the money that you think you can get, you have to show strength and that you're together, or else there's no reason for an Amazon or ESPN to even get involved if it's going to break up anyway.
All right, one more thing. Obviously, that back when USC and UCLA and that story, there was a lot of back and forth from Pac-12 fans and or media, And I hate to throw a blanket around that, and vice versa from the Big 12, as they were trying, of course, recovering from Texas, Oklahoma, which they were able to do. Do you see any increase in, like, social media vitriol going on right now as things are kind of in this little holding pattern or whatever it might be called?
Yeah, I love it. I will say this. Big 12 fans are very passionate. They are, and they're not going to let anyone talk down in their conference. And, they come out in very strong with support of their conference. And right now it's, come, at least on my social media, it's a lot of come to the Big 12. And the Pac-12 is getting killed on social media. I mean, it just is, and it's going to be like that until a deal is signed. But there's definitely kind of a war of words where there's always going to be people that believe the Pac-12 is worth saving. And, the Big 12 obviously thinks that they're a conference that probably doesn't get the respect that they deserve. And it's always fun whenever these stories come out to see the fans go back and forth.
Thanks, Jason. Appreciate your time. Jason Scheer, Wildcat Authority 247 Sports, covers Arizona, of course, covers the Pac-12 too. We'll hear from Christian McCollum on Notre Dame. Anything you say there that I know we have McCollum coming up. Anything you say there that piqued your interest a little bit?
I think it's interesting that he's kind of saying there's like a rough deadline, after the NCAA tournament if they don't have anything done. I like, if I'm George Kliavkoff, if I get into the month of March at all on this, I'm starting to really sweat.
2 weeks, we're 12 days away.
Exactly. And I don't know what the exact holdup is and why, what everything is going to be, but yeah, I'm sure he's sweating now, but if it's 12 days from now, and then if it's 20 days from now, and you're into March and this is still dragging on, I'd be sweating bullets if I was George Kliavkoff.
Yeah, I think it was interesting to hear kind of on the fans. I definitely, realize how passionate the Big 12 fans are. I've seen a lot of, passionate Pac-12 fans too, although I think a good portion of them are kind of in a holding pattern and not really – like, screw the Big 12. That's mostly, like, Utah fans from what I've seen that are like, screw you guys. We want nothing to do with you. And I know a lot of that comes from the BYU stuff and just the fact that they've, arrived in a conference in these last few years after themselves, being on the outside looking in for a while. So they're like, hey, we're here now. We don't want to leave now. And I totally get that. I do think, there is some of that social media stuff that is propaganda, but what I found is that typically comes from the people who call the most names. Like, that's not a guy just saying, I'm a Big 12 supporter and I think this happens, or I'm a Pac-12 supporter and I say this happens. I think it's the people who go out of their way to, like, talk down to people and paint people a certain way and call them, names and really kind of just look down their nose. I think that's where more of the propaganda comes from. Rather than just fans just going back and forth and talking their trash. And I've definitely noticed some of both of those things. So, from my standpoint, I've said all along that, we're based in Big 12 country. We are around the Big 12 a lot more, but we've never a single time wished for the death of the Pac-12. However, I've also explained to Pac-12 fans that if you understood what it was like on the other end when Oklahoma and Texas announced didn't announce, but their departures got busted, Big 12 fans are not going to forget the reaction from a lot of Pac-12 fans that was basically, screw you guys, ha, 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 pointing and laughing.
We don't want you.
Yeah, we don't want you. We're going to let you die on that raft all alone and let it deflate. And, then the Big 12 survived. And I think it's a one-upsman now, like, who's going to be better when it's all said and done, and really they might just be looking eye to eye when it's all said and done. But be wary of those that are like going out of their way to do a lot of the name calling or demean one side or the other. I think that's when you see people's true colors, and true colors can be kind of ugly. But as long as it's mostly just they're like, yeah, screw you too. Our conference better. No, that stuff's all fine and dandy. But when you start to get like personal and really paint with a broad brush, I think that says a lot more about the person sending that message than the people he's trying to send that to or she's trying to send that to.
By the way, I hope Jesse Wilson doesn't mind me saying this, but Jesse Wilson, who watches us on this show, 365 Sports, has been going through some health concerns. Jesse had posted some of it on the chat room. We're a family. We're thinking about you, man. Hopefully you can lean on us every damn day we're here for you, and good luck with what you're dealing with. And 365 Sports, the family here for you and everybody that is a part of it, no matter the opinions of all of what we have from every angle we do have. This is 365 Sports.
The future's bright, the time is now.
College is what you make it. It's a late night pizza run and all-nighters coding a new project. It's having big dreams and making them a reality. It's a professor who knows your name and your story. It's preparation for your future, your calling, your life. And at Baylor, it's even more. Baylor, where lights shine bright.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
In Texas, there's pea-size hail and baseball-size hail. Guess which one hit our house? We didn't even know where to begin, but we called our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent, and he was so reassuring. He knew exactly what to do to get our house back into shape and our lives back to normal. Now, we're even more thankful for the roof over our heads.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why we take the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott in Conroe at 936-756-7717. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Notre Dame has an offensive coordinator, and you would think they would. Most everybody has finalized their staff. Not everybody, but most everybody. And Marcus Freeman probably didn't think it was going to take this long. And then there was that public courting with Ludwig out of Utah that didn't go very well, but they do. They finally have promoted from within, and Christian McCollum joins us from Irish Sports Daily, covers Notre Dame with us on 365 Sports with Paul Craig and David Smoak. Christian, has this been a black eye in a way to Notre Dame football and how this has kind of gone down, or is that exaggeration?
No, I don't think that's an exaggeration at all.
it's something that it'll go away eventually, right? But right now, and especially in the offseason, there's not much to talk about. Everyone's pretty fired up. And it's not so much about the fact that they ended up with Gerard Parker, although some fans were hoping for someone better. It's like you said, the way this process played out with the Ludwig courting and the way that played out kind of through the media. And there's a lot of different, sides to believe. Notre Dame's athletic director, Jack Swarbrick, just released an email he sent to some supporter telling his side of the story, or at least part of it. And it's just a lot of, it's not a good look for the Irish right now, that's for sure.
So it was the buyout that tripped this up, or was it something more?
So it depends on who you believe, right? So Ludwig had a $2.8 million buyout reportedly, which is extremely large for an assistant coach. But he just recently re-upped with Utah, and this is where the buyout's going to be the highest. So everyone agrees there was some miscommunication, and Notre Dame, for whatever reason, was not aware of the size of his buyout. So that, whose fault is that? Probably just about everybody. But Jack Swarbrick, like I said, in this email that he just released, he claims the buyout was a quote-unquote obstacle, but it was one that they were willing to get around and was not the reason that Ludwig's not at Notre Dame. So that begs the question, why isn't he at Notre Dame? And Swarbrick didn't get into that during his email. So, like I said, depends on who you believe.
So one of the criticisms that's popped up out of this, and it's been mentioned at other times too, is that, Notre Dame's got all this money, like they're the Dragons sitting on this big batch of gold, but they keep the purse strings tight. Do you agree with that, or is that a misconception?
You must be reading our message board or any other message board there is out there associated to Notre Dame.
Yeah.
I don't believe that's a misconception. I mean, that's one of the things when you do have a giant endowment that begins with the letter B, and you seem to be, fighting over $1 million here, $1 million there. I mean, obviously it's easy to spend somebody else's money, but that's definitely, the narrative. And I think it's backed up, in fact, in some ways. And like I said, it's when you're a fan of a school or a team, you never want to hear money comes is the reason why somebody's not getting some improvement or something, or why you didn't sign the shortstop that you want to keep. I think Paul's a Red Sox fan. I'm a Red Sox fan myself. But, so it's easy to spend someone else's money. But at the same time, yeah, I mean, Notre Dame is not poor. And the fact that, sometimes some of these deals come down to money, they are obviously trying to shed that narrative. During Tommy Rees's courtship with Alabama, they let it be known that they were going to match whatever offer Alabama gave. I mean, how are you going to do that? How can you guarantee the match? You don't even know what the offer is going to be. But it does show that they're sensitive to that narrative, and I think it's grounded in some reality.
So Parker's the new offensive coordinator. He's been promoted. There was, at least from where I sit and from watching some of the reactions, and even those who have watched what we do every day on this show, a couple of Notre Dame fans that keep us updated on some things as well, that there was like, my God, Alabama, thank you, please take him. That was at least from what I saw. Has that changed based on who now is the offensive coordinator?
So it's always the thing with whether it's a quarterback or a coach or whoever, the fans always want to get rid of them, and then the question is, all right, who are you going to replace him with? So I wouldn't say Tommy Rees, it wasn't a consensus that the fans wanted to get rid of him by any means. But there were some people that thought, all right, we can upgrade here at this position. And now that, Parker's the guy, some, fans are rightly questioning, is it an upgrade to have the guy that was working underneath Rees? Is he representing an upgrade? Possibly, right? I mean, Notre Dame, they kind of went through this a few years ago when Mike Elko left to go down to Texas A&M, and they promoted Clark Lee. And Clark Lee did a fine job. Obviously, he's the head coach of Vanderbilt now. I don't think there's the segment of the population of Notre Dame fans that was not happy, that was not sad to see Rees go. I don't think they're clamoring to have him back. But at the same time, I think Tommy Rees, he dealt with a lot of criticism. I mean, it'd be struggled to find some guy who suffered from criticism from Notre Dame fans for a more longer period of time than Tommy Rees between his days as a player and a coach. Some of that was fair and some of it was unfair, though. So I obviously the guy was well thought of. Nick Saban was going to hire him as offensive coordinator. And I think Tommy Rees probably was like, I've been here long enough. I've put up with this long enough. And the fans that wanted him gone, they might not be jumping up and down right now, but I don't think they're saying, I wish I had him back.
Okay, so what does this all mean for Sam Hartman?
Hopefully it doesn't change much in terms of what he's going to do. They brought in Gino Guidugli he's at Wisconsin, but he's really a Cincinnati guy, to be the quarterback coach. And that seems like a home run hire. The fact that he has that relationship with some of the staff members, including Freeman, dating back to his Cincinnati days, and his development for Desmond Ridder was obviously great. I mean, that's kind of one knock on Rees that, it's hard to argue with, is if he really developed quarterbacks. And some of his defenders will say, well, he didn't really have great quarterbacks to develop. But then the argument is, well, those are the guys he recruited. So, Guidugli, he could easily be an upgrade at the quarterback coaching position. And for Sam Hartman, I'm just a believer that if Sam Hartman can just come in and play the way he played throughout his tenure at Wake Forest, that he's going to have tremendous amount of success. He should have better tools to work with, better pieces around him. And I think Guidugli is a really, really good hire for that part of it.
Christian, people can get spoiled when, you're winning 10-plus games every single year, and then last year, a down year, so to speak. It obviously started off very rough, but by the end, they won 9 games. I mean, that's pretty salty for a down year. What's just sort of the feeling right now in general, checking the pulse on Marcus Freeman, how that first year went? Obviously, they're making changes to correct what wasn't exactly up to par, but just what's kind of the feel after the way they were able to salvage last season?
Yeah, I think there was a great excitement prior to this whole offensive coordinator fiasco, which is, obviously all the talk right now. But you're right. I mean, the beginning of the season was very shaky. Fans are wondering, do we have the right guys? Is Freeman in over his head? What are we doing? Is this going to just implode? And they righted that ship so quickly. Is really, really impressive. So coming out of that, you add Sam Hartman, where a lot of people said the quarterback position was the glaring weakness. You add one of the premier quarterbacks in the country, and now it's like, all right, let's go. I mean, recruiting has been going well, even though it might not have, ended the way they wanted to on signing day, missed out on a couple of key guys. Freeman has shown exactly what people thought he would. He's been a stud on the recruiting trail, and more than anything, his staff has been as well. Because when you work for a guy like that really values recruiting, you're going to have to recruit. And basically everybody on this staff has done a great job recruiting. So the arrow's looking up. Fans are really, really excited about what's going to come. Notre Dame has obviously, another big season ahead of them. Fans always have high hopes, but really it's just the kind of thing with the offensive coordinator, the way this worked out is a lot of fans feel sour about the fact that, Marcus Freeman might not have got his first choice. And they feel like they're kind of handicapping, this guy that you just brought in, head coach, and everyone's really rooting for him. So they want him to have the guys he wants. That being said, Gerard Parker and Marcus Freeman are extremely close. I mean, they're closer than friends. They're closer to like brothers. So this could be kind of one of those blessing in disguise moments where I know that Gerard Parker's going to do everything he can to make sure this works for Freeman, and Freeman's going to do everything he can to make sure his boy is successful in this role.
One more thing for you, Christian. We appreciate your time. And we've talked a lot, as you know, in this area, the Big 12 and the realignment, the new TV deal, so they're good. We know what the Big Ten, SEC have done. ACC's kind of in their long-term deal, and the Pac-12's trying to find out what is their next move. But we've mentioned this when people bring up Notre Dame. There's no reason, is there, for them to do anything, and even then it may not be a reason, until the college football playoff puts them in a position where they must do something different to be in the playoff or have an option to be in the playoff?
That's correct. And Jack Swarbrick's on the record of that. He's basically saying that if they get pushed out of the college football playoff, then that's when they'll look to potentially be forced into a conference. And it's interesting because the SEC is likely to be the one to say, oh, no, let's just leave Notre Dame alone. But let's give them access to the playoffs, because they know that if Notre Dame is forced into a conference, that's just going to make the Big Ten that much richer, that much stronger as a conference. So they expect the SEC to be the ones that are, keeping Notre Dame's avenue to that college football playoff alive as long as they can. Because you're right. Once that's shut off, that's when Notre Dame will look to win the conference. And in all likelihood, that conference would be the Big Ten.
Christian, good stuff. Really good. Thank you very much for your time. Christian McCollum, Irish Sports Daily, our offensive coordinator hiring. And obviously the delay, public, Utah and Ludwig, looks like that was a done deal until it wasn't. And now their staff, they have that together. They've added a couple of other pieces too.
I do like that in the statement that Swarbrick sent out, he's like, basically what he said was appreciate your concern over, rumored money issues or tightening of the purse strings. If you're interested in donating, here's our fund. And he had a link to it. And, I'm sure that money is not a concern. Let's put it that way for Notre Dame. I think that, if you want to call them penny pinchers, that's fine. But, if they reach down into that purse, there's no lack of funding there. So, like I said earlier, I think there does come a point where you also, no matter how much money you have, rich people typically have money because they also handle it well.
That's
you don't just go around going, you know what, we can spend it, so let's give $4 million to an offensive coordinator and just reset the market. I mean, if they really wanted to screw over 75% of college, more than that, 85% of college football, they could be the ones to do it. But, there just comes a point where it's got to make sense as far as the money part of that goes.
There's part of me that respects what they did. Yeah, it may not look good, but respects what they did. Okay, well, everyone else is going to 2.8, okay, then 4.2, whatever. Paul, when you were born, 30% or so of your money that you eventually earn goes to the government. How much of that goes to Notre Dame?
Me? Notre Dame? None. Although,
I don't sign up for that as a Catholic at birth.
Yeah, you almost do. It's weird because, when no matter what state you lived in, and I lived in several. I lived in Tennessee, which I don't remember when I was a baby, and I lived in Pennsylvania, which I was really small and don't. But California, I was 5 years old, so I pretty much remember most of California and
Florida
and Bossier City, Louisiana, and then Florida, and then here. Of course, here I was already out of college when I moved here, but those other three that when you're talking about football with anybody in the church, they are either a Notre Dame fan or they don't like Notre Dame because they went somewhere else. And there are I went to Florida State with a bunch of Catholics who were still Notre Dame fans. We played them 2 years in a row, and I look over at my friend and he's wearing a Notre Dame shirt. I'm like, all your money goes here, right? That's how big it is. Yeah. That's how big it is. And our pastor growing up, Father Anglem, he was hilarious. There was in South Florida, they have 3:30 afternoon masses, which is technically not allowed by the church because you're not supposed to have a Saturday afternoon mass until after sunset. But the reason they have a 3:30 afternoon mass is what they told the Vatican is we got a lot of older people and it'd be better for them, which is actually a lie. And the reason they have it is because if they can go to mass on Saturday and they're out at 4:30, they're at the steakhouse and getting the early bird at 4:30. That's why they do it. Well, if Father Anglem, who was the pastor, ever got that mass when I was an altar boy on a Saturday in the fall, it was going to be the fastest mass ever. He would get me like, you guys know Jesus, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was great. Let's go.
Pass it around.
Yeah.
All right. When we come back in just a little bit, about 8 minutes, Kansas State's Director of Athletics, Gene Taylor, he's joined us before. His thoughts, where the Big 12 is, where they're going, and what they've also done. And Brett Yormark, and looking for the future of what might be more for the conference. That and much more. Paul, Catalina's top 5 at the end of the show. Craig's got off the radar in maybe 20 minutes or so. A lot to get to. This is 365 Sports. Stonewood Dental in Robinson, Texas. That's where I go to get my dental work, and thank goodness I found them. Dr. Childress had been talking to me for quite some time. He's a sports fan, and I got to know him because he sponsored some things that I did when it came to high school football. Well, I eventually got to know him because I had a bad ache. It's just an opportunity, and I was looking for someone new because the way the other business had gotten shut down because of the health reasons, at least for a while. So I needed to get to a dentist, and I picked up the phone and called him. One of the great things I've done when it comes to my dental work. Stonewood Dental has the root canals. They have sealants and crowns and fillings. extractions and IV sedation, partials, TMJ for if your jaw's out of whack, bridges and dentures and implants. I've done the implants. I've done the crowns. I've done the root canals. I've also had regular just teeth cleanings as well. 11 hygienists, 5 dentists, excellent support staff. They are a machine, and I mean that in an incredibly complimentary way. From when the time it is time for you to get an appointment, when they remind you multiple times in ways, and then on top of that, then you get to your appointment. Hello, come on in. It's like a home. And then when you're in there, you're treated as well as anybody. You might be the only patient. You feel that way at times, even though it's packed with other patients. Stonewood Dental. Dr. Steve Childress is not just a great dentist. He's a great guy. He's a great person. He's great a businessman as well. Stonewood Dental in Robinson, Texas.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
What are you waiting for? Next year's New Year's resolution to lose weight, get fit, start working out? 3, 2, 1, go to Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness. If you really want to get in shape, get rid of weight or inches, you have to make a commitment to work out. End the excuses of not enough time, you're too tired or too busy. There's a special place that will change your life at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco. And they have a commitment to you too. With personal trainers Christy London, Randall Corley, and Alex Bosch. State-of-the-art Cybex equipment, new weights and spin bikes, clean and spacious locker rooms, each with a whirlpool and sauna, and a staff that will know your name when you walk through the front door. Elite tennis facilities and a great tennis pro in Britt Coleman. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness is a place you can call home, a place you can work out on your own or with 40-plus group exercise classes. It's time for you to get in shape, lose inches, get fit at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lake Shore Drive in Waco.
Hi, this is Paul Catalina. I recently got engaged to the love of my life, but the most important thing that I had to do before I popped the question was get that perfect ring. And I know nothing about rings. So I went to the wedding ring store, Boozer's Jewelers on Valley Mills Drive. I knew I needed a custom design, and that's exactly what they do. 9 out of 10 of their engagement rings are designed in-house. The entire process took less than a month, and they were great every step of the way. Great options on financing, excellent selection, and talented designers. My fiance and I get nonstop compliments on the ring. I only deserve credit for doing the smartest thing I could, walking into Boozer's and letting them work their magic. Your one-of-a-kind fiance deserves a one-of-a-kind ring, and that's what you get at Boozer's. Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store on Valley Mills Drive.
This is 365 Sports. Are you a Sick'em 365 super fan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at sick'em365.com.
365 Sports take you up until 6 o'clock Central Time. Mentioned that Baylor has announced their spring game on April the 22nd. Mark Evans II. When I was working with Lauren Birchfield about some prospects for the NFL draft that we would interview, and Connor Galvin, of course, Baylor offensive lineman, We had him on last Thursday, and she started asking about obviously you want to get guys who are first-round picks, but we want stories as well. Mark Evans from Arkansas Pine-Bluff is going to join us at around 5:30. He is an unbelievable story who became like an All-American player. Scouts know him. He's got an invite to the Combine, and he's going to join us as one of the stories behind the upcoming NFL draft as we give you some prospects between now and the draft, of course, later on in the spring. Now, one of the questions, and I think sometimes, and I know I'm like this, that when someone was asking about the Notre Dame and what would force them and all of this, remember now, when the the college football championship expands to 12 teams, it goes in this order. The 4 top conference champions, the 4 top-rated conference champions, the top 6 rated at-large teams, and then the 2 highest-ranking remaining conference champions. So, you go, okay, it's this and this and this and this, but that's how it, and I sometimes get that mixed up myself, but that's where the 12 teams will come from. The 4 top conference champions, the top 6 at large, and then on top of that, the 2 highest ranking remaining conference champions, not a part of the top 4.
So where could Notre Dame feel some pressure? They could feel some pressure if they feel like they don't want to have to play one extra game every single year. But that would also have to mean that they feel like they could go to the Big Ten or wherever and just go win that sucker. So, I mean, it's easier said than done. But, I mean, yeah, if you don't want to have to always play one extra game, then maybe that's enough to eventually force you into a conference. But it seems like there's a lot of other things that are working in your favor, not being a part of a conference, that one extra game, especially when you're Notre Dame, it doesn't feel like it's a mountain too tall to climb. But yeah, that could be, if you were looking for an in, I guess it could be that of, yeah, you don't ever get a bye in the playoff because you're not a conference champion. You don't play in a conference, so you can't be a champion. That would be one way, but it seems like a very small crack of light versus all of the other stuff in their favor.
Well, right now there are 4 spots, and there are about to be 6 at large. So the number increases, not this year, but next. We're now joined by Kansas State Director of Athletics, Gene Taylor. He's been on this show. We love having him on the show. Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak. I'm David Smoak. And Gene, thank you very much. How you been?
Good. How you guys doing? Good to be back on. How's everything?
We're doing great. We're doing really, really well. How much does the exit agreement with Texas and Oklahoma clear the air for doing now more with the Big 12, whatever that might be?
Well, I think it just makes a little more clarity is that when you can start, whatever, moving forward with the new 4 members, and scheduling is going to be a little more clear starting, beyond the 23-24 season, and whatever else that Brett has in his vision as our commissioner and as we have as ADs. I think it just the uncertainty is kind of cleared up, but we know exactly when they're exiting. Obviously, the 4 members are coming in this July, and then we can just kind of plan for the future. So I think it's a good thing.
Does that future, whether it's soon or 5, 6, 7 years down the line, include more teams than the 4 just coming in your estimation?
Yeah, that's a great question, and obviously, there's a lot of speculation out there with what's going on with the Pac-12, probably more than anything, which I don't know. And Brett really hasn't been focused on anything other than trying to wrap up the Texas and Oklahoma, and the TV deal really have been 2 big priorities. And so, I'm guessing that with the uncertainty and what's happening, and you hear one thing where their TV deal is not going to be great, and then you hear that it is, and then I think they put out a statement where the remaining 10 said we're not going anywhere, we're sticking together, and so I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see where the next few weeks and months go in terms of what possibilities are that are out there.
Take them, or just in general, take any potential expansion or whatever off the table. Just how much of a relief or a feeling of a safety net is it, knowing that there are other negotiations going on that maybe are going well or not well, like you said, who the heck really knows what's going on, but to have had the TV deal done early as you guys elected to do, how much does that feel like the right decision at this point in time, looking back on that?
Well, I think it looks, better and better. Obviously, I think I read an article where some people were asking Brett or questioning Brett, did you move too soon and did you leave too much on the table? I think with the uncertainty of the TV market and the fact that we got both ESPN and Fox, two great linear networks that are, been very supportive, I think it's huge. And then I think the future is even going to be brighter, whether as we continue to have success in the Big 12, just where we are with basketball right now. Obviously, the football season we have, we're bringing in, 4 new members that I think can bring a lot to the table. So, and it wasn't a 10 or 15 year agreement. I think it's 5 or 6 years that we'll be able to be back in the market after we continue to build this brand. And I think that's huge. That their next round could be even bigger than what we currently have.
How hard is it to project what people are going to consume in the future? The argument of linear, the argument over streaming. There's many that feel like streaming is going to be the biggest thing in the future. What kind of discussions are there surrounding those types of things, and how far do you guys look at in that regard?
Well, I think, obviously you want to be flexible, right? You want to be able to have the ability to do both and deliver your product to your fans in whatever form you can get it in. And I think there's still always going to be the linear model for, you've got the very different markets out there. You've got your older market. You got your, my kids don't even have, basic cable anymore. It's everything, that's, through YouTube or whatever the mediums are. And so I think you'll be able to deliver as many ways as you possibly can to your market, but you have to be flexible enough to be able to do that. And, whether it's ESPN or Fox or you add in another, streaming company, that you write in the flexibility to be able to do that in your contract, which I know Brett is so attuned to that he's already thinking about that. So that's what's been great about having him as a commish, is his vision and his understanding of some of these things is really, really what we needed.
We asked Gubernek yesterday, Texas Tech's president, this. Did Brett Yormark even surprise you, what you thought he might be able to scratch and uncover more revenue flow that may not even have been something on the table for anyone else?
I think he did. And again, I don't sit there and I just know what was talked about when Texas and Oklahoma announced that they were leaving. You're 50% less of a product now from the media folks, and you're not going to get the deal that you thought you were going to get, losing Texas and Oklahoma for him to be able to get us not only where we are currently and then a little bit more over the next 5 to 6 years once it kicks in, I think it's huge. And then I think he wrote in, and again, I don't have the details of the contract, some flexibility, whether if there is an expansion to be able to bring in some teams in, that doesn't detract from the money we have. It actually adds to it. And then the ability to add a streaming partner maybe down the road and some of those things. I think those, again, his vision and understanding of all that really, I think, has put us in a really good position.
Director of Athletics at K-State, Kansas State, Gene Taylor with us on 365 Sports.
How much fun is it to win a Big 12 football championship?
Well, it was a lot of fun. It would have been nice if I could have been there in person, but, it is what it is. But it was fun, and I'm just so happy for Chris. And obviously the game itself was just, if you're just a football fan of neither team, you saw a tremendous football game and an exciting football game. So to be able to pull a win in a game like that, the way we did, the goal line stance, the last second field goal was phenomenal. And then just, the residual for our, ability to, obviously we wish we'd have played a little bit better against Alabama in the Sugar Bowl, but as you guys know, winning a conference championship is hard. And to be able to do it, in Chris's, 4th year, it's so fun to see. And the way our players just kind of bonded together throughout the whole season was a joy to watch.
What would you tell someone from the outside about Manhattan, Kansas, and your university that they may not know?
Well, first of all, it's a tremendous place to live in terms of quality of life, in terms of just the type of community that Manhattan is. It's phenomenal. And it's not, people think, oh, you're flat. We've got rolling hills. We've got, we got very different topography here in Manhattan. It's just a cool place. But what I love about this place is people in Manhattan and the state around us, communities around us, they're all in. They wear their purple with a lot of pride. They care a great deal about Kansas State, not just athletics, but the university. There's a tremendous amount of pride in who we are as an institution. And so when you can win a Big 12, that pride just continues to grow. and just the excitement level, and it's rolled over to basketball. What Coach Tang has done for us this year in basketball, it's been a fun year so far.
Well, we know all about him, and I know they're kind of in a little bit of a funk, but they'll be fine. And he's an incredible person, great coach as well. When you mentioned, when Paul brought up Manhattan, when Brett Yormark's name was first announced and his background, some of us had questions that, what the hell does he know about Lubbock or Waco or Manhattan or name one, right?
Yeah.
Stillwater. To me, Gene, when I've talked to him, it is almost as if he's embraced those towns. Do you agree?
Oh, 100%. You know, obviously he came here and he's been hitting the towns here for basketball. He loves it. He constantly is amazed at a couple of levels. One, the enthusiasm that our fan bases have for our teams, and I mean it's deep. You know, you've been there, you've watched, you've been in those crowds. People come to Manhattan or teams come in. It's hard to win here. It's hard for us to go down to wherever, Waco, Baylor. I mean, Lubbock. The crowd enthusiasm and the enjoyment that he has watching that environment or those environments has been fun. And then the other thing he talks about is the investment we've all made, not just at Kansas State, but in the Big 12, in our facilities and our student athletes. He's been absolutely blown away by the amount of investment our donors and our institutions have made to make our programs better, both physical space and just quality of opportunities for our athletes.
I know that when Texas and Oklahoma story popped, that a lot of people were looking around like, my God, what's going to happen? I know you were and others were. But when Baylor, Oklahoma State play one year, then TCU and K-State play the next year, even though the TV deal's still down to what happens with eyeballs and numbers and all of that, how much did that beam pride with those remaining schools that weren't Texas and OU?
Quite a bit. You know, I think, and that's kind of what we talked about is, you know, we're more than just Texas and OU. We're a quality conference across the board. And yeah, those are great programs and big brands, but we're just as talented and ability to win championships as they are. And we all know, you know, Texas has been a while since they've won a Big 12 football championship, you know, obviously and so I think when we can have two teams other than Texas and Oklahoma, at least since they've made that announcement, be in these championships and play for championships, it's huge. And it just continues to elevate us as a conference without them being in our future.
Would your Advil budget had gone up, you know, conference-wide, had that not been the case? Had it kind of stayed status quo with Oklahoma? You're like, you know, here we are trying to sell the rest of us, and then nothing has changed. We can't shake out of the national narrative.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it would have, you know, because, you know, we talk about that as ADs and you know, but yeah, I think it'd have been like, oh boy, how are we going to be reviewed and looked at? And just again, look at our basketball program right now, collectively as a conference. It's literally, nobody can even question that we're the best conference by far in America. And certainly, you know, Texas is, you know, right now at the top of the conference, but there's a lot of really good teams behind them. And they go into Texas Tech the other night and get beat. We go into Texas and beat them early in the season. So I think it just continues to reinforce that this is a really, really good conference with really good programs with great brands other than OU and Texas.
Gene, when Brett does decide, or when Brett Yormark mentions, or you or Mac Rhodes or whoever mention the fourth time zone or out west or whatever, how would you say on a scale of 1 to 10, if that's even possible, is how serious that really is? Because a lot of it depends on what maybe the Pac-12 can do, and yet you have to worry about what's best for the Big 12.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, as ADs, we just kind of look at the reality of it, right? Did we really expect the Big Ten to take UCLA and USC? Didn't see that coming. Obviously, we didn't see Texas and OU going to the SEC. And so I think our need and our willingness to be flexible and be open-minded about some of this stuff, you know, Brett's helping us with that, just on what he talks about and kind of how he sees the landscape and understands the landscape, that we need to be flexible. We need to be willing to look at those options should they present themselves, and how much they make sense for us, for our student athletes, for travel, and all those things are a big part of that. And then what do they bring to the table? If they're available, are they additive, and they're going to bring more to us as a conference than you know, reduction, and I think that's going to be part of the conversation. So if something of that pops, then as ADs, we need to be honest with Brett and have really, to the point conversations about how we feel about whatever direction he sees us being able to go.
Are travel costs ever discussed? Because you hear that and then you go, man, people just fly all over the place these days. Some of the smaller sports, or I guess non-revenue sports, their schedules are more prevalent as far as games per week in some cases. Is that even really thought about when it comes to expanding and getting bigger?
Yeah, I mean, it is. Obviously, football's a little different because you're already chartering, and, you go out and rent a charter. It's not going to be that much different whether you charter out to West Virginia or you charter out to BYU for football. Most of us charter men and women's basketball. So, again, it's more of a time commitment and what time are you getting back and what time they have to get back into class. But as you get into your other sports, the golfs and the tennises and the baseballs and how much they have to travel west becomes a concern, or at least a conversation point of, okay, how much is this going to add to our budget? Where's that money going to come from? I know it was with the Big Ten ADs because I've got colleagues in the Big Ten, and that was definitely how are we going to make sense of this going from Rutgers to Los Angeles with some of our teams, and I think you just have to work through that with how you schedule from a creative perspective and travel partners and some of that. But we'll see how that goes.
You're on the College Football Playoff Committee. Is that another 1 year left? Is that a 2 year? How many years left do you have that role?
Collectively, it's a 3-year deal, and I've got 1 more year left, and It's been a phenomenal experience. I wish I could stay on it forever, but unfortunately you don't get to.
As someone who's been on it, do you feel like expanding the 12 will make it easier or more complicated?
It's a great question. Obviously, it's never easy because everybody kind of focuses on the top 4, and usually get to the end of the year, there's 5, 6, maybe 7 teams maybe being talked about. Now you're going to have 12 teams. You're probably going to have 20 teams. I think it becomes much more difficult to look at the resumes as you get down to 9, 10, 11, and 12 because 13, 14, and 15, their resumes are going to look very similar. It's one thing to look at an 11-0, 11-1, 12-0 team. It's another thing to look at 4 or 5 teams that all are, 9-3, 8-4, and they've beaten similar teams, and their strength of schedules are very similar, and the wins on the road and the things that we look at, to determine. It's going to be a big discussion to figure out how do you differentiate a 9-3 team and an 8-4 when you start getting into the those lower. Not lower, but the 9, 10, 11, 12 teams that also look very much similar, like 13, 14, 15, and so on.
Gene, thank you. It's always great to pick your brain and get the insight and experience from you. Keep up what you're doing. Tell Jerome Tang we said hello. I know you'll see Baylor Tuesday in Manhattan, and we appreciate your time every time we can get you. Thank you.
Love being out with you guys, and go Big 12, and we'll make sure we're a great host of Baylor up until the final bucket goes in and we beat you guys.
Thank you very much.
All right, see you guys.
Classic. That's Gene Taylor, Director of Athletics at Kansas State, with us on 365 Sports.
That was great to have Gene. It's very different. We've gotten a couple different perspectives across leadership from this week.
Jamie Pollard will be on with us next Tuesday from Iowa State.
But, when you talk about, Lawrence Gubanek yesterday, Mac on Tuesday, and then now Gene Taylor today, they all, similar things, but, again, different perspectives, especially when it comes to the topic of expansion of, how they really,
They're not denying it.
No, they're not denying it. But I do think that, it's different opinions for different schools, right? Sure. Of all the schools in the Big 12, of the original schools, westward expansion benefits Texas Tech more than any of them. Because then they can kind of, they can have some schools that are maybe even closer to them than you even thought. When you talk about Arizona State, if that would ever happen, or even if it was just San Diego State, that's still probably a better flight for them than
Colorado,
West Virginia.
Utah,
yeah.
All right, when we come back, Craig Smoak off the radar. This is 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, they are the people that you can count on. They are the people that I've counted on more than a few occasions for repair on my vehicle. Got into a couple of fender benders going back and forth to Dallas last year, and ended up going over to Richard Carr to get my SUV all fixed up. And the next time I'm in the market for a vehicle, because they treated me so well, that's the place that I will go to, the people that I will count on to get me into a new ride. But whether you're looking to buy new right now, or you're looking for a pre-owned vehicle, or you're just looking for great customer service, Richard Carr is the place to look. They've got a Texas-sized selection right now as far as new vehicles, over 150 on the lot ready to drive home today. That includes dozens of Sierra trucks. Right now, qualified buyers can save thousands on new 2023 GMC Sierra SLT 1500s. You can also get special financing on new 2023 GMC Sierra trucks. Just talk to the good folks over at the dealership. They can explain more as far as numbers, percentages, and all those types of things. But they've got good deals going on right now on the Sierra trucks from the 2023 line. If you're looking for luxury SUV, well, then go over there, take a test drive, and you can experience the smooth and quiet ride of the 2023 Buick Envisions. Qualified buyers can get lease payments with $5,000 down cash or trade at $269 per month. You can save thousands on a purchase, but again, talk to the good folks over at the dealership, the people that you can count on at Richard Carr, and they will explain that in more detail of how you can find yourself in a brand new SUV from the Buick line. But if you're not looking to buy brand new, they still have special financing and great pricing. If you want to just buy a quality pre-owned car or truck, they have plenty of those available as well, many in stock under $20,000. They've been inspected thoroughly, they're ready to finance, and they are affordable for almost any credit rating. Quality vehicles ready to drive today. Or just want to get your car, truck, or SUV worked on, get in touch with their service department, and they can hook you right up. Go to richardcar.com to see their service specials and set an appointment for quick and reliable repair, service, oil change, whatever it is that you're looking to do. They will help you out. Again, just go over to richardcar.com. They've been in business for over 23 years in the area. The people that you can count on in Waco and Central Texas for your automotive needs, run by proud Central Texans. Log on to richardcar.com. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
Y'all listen up. Let me tell you something about group meals from Rudy's Barbecue. It's got all you need for all the folks you gotta feed, smoked meat, sides, and more. There's everything down to the tablecloth, just like the one that you see at the store. At a bridal shower, it's better than flowers. And a long business meeting, it'll pass the hours. It'll feed all the cousins at a family function. It's better than potluck at a church luncheon. Next time you need to feed 10 or more, call and order a Rudy's group meal.
Next in line.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year. Whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit Marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Don's Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don's Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. It's time for Craig Smoak's Off the Radar. Brought to you by Pickup Outfitters. Since 1997, we've been outfitting trucks, SUVs, and vans at 220 Lake Air Drive or CreateACommotion.com.
All right, welcome back into 365 Sports. Time for a little off the radar as we take a look at some stories that are, based on the name, a little bit off the radar. So not going to be talking expansion in this segment unless it's just, no other place to put that kind of talk or realignment or things like that. Instead, talk a little bit of non-college football, although at times there will be college football still to bring up. But I want to start off with a passing today as a long time well-known figure in the game of baseball passed away at the age of 81, Tim McCarver, broadcaster, player, long time in the booth. I mean, I can hear his voice in my head right now, as a matter of fact, just thinking about it. But World Series victor and all-star, a lot of different things over the course of his career, but definitely a big part of baseball. He passes away at the age of 81 today, according to the National Baseball Hall of Fame. His passing apparently related to heart failure. But MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred saying Tim McCarver was an all-star, a World Series champion, a respected teammate, and one of the most influential voices our game has known. As a player, he was a key part of great Cardinals and Phillies teams in his 21-year career in the booth. His analysis and attention to detail brought fans closer to our game and how it is played and managed. Tim's approach enhanced the fan experience on our biggest stages and on the broadcast of the Mets, Yankees, and Cardinals. He debuted all the way back in 1959 with the St. Louis Cardinals, won 2 World Series titles with them, played as well for the defunct Expos, the Phillies, and the Red Sox, and then retired in 1980, and of course went on to do many other things, including broadcasting. But Tim McCarver passes away at age 81.
Part of those teams with Gibson, Flood, Brock, etc. Remember him well. That's kind of my wheelhouse time when he was with St. Louis. Heck of a broadcaster, true serum, didn't hold back. He had the one time when I think about him, when I saw that story, is that conflict with Dion.
I told Garrett about that earlier, about, he had criticized Dion. Dion found him in the locker room after they, I guess, when the Braves won the World Series or won the NLCS, and just doused him with ice water right in the face. And this is in no way an indictment of him as a human being. Everybody seemed to like Tim McCarver, but I was never a fan of his broadcast-wise. I thought he would get laser-focused on one thing and then stop talking about everything else. And but, I'm not trying to speak ill of dead, but I just – honestly, if you go back and listen to me at any of my shows at any time talking about Tim McCarver, I would be disingenuous if I didn't say he bothered me as a broadcaster quite a bit. But I did. His career was absolutely fantastic as a baseball player, and he was a legendary broadcaster. He just was not my cup of tea.
Fair enough. So he passes away at age 81, and not going to be popular with everybody. It certainly wasn't popular with Deion Sanders, but that all stemmed from him, criticizing the fact that Deion was trying to play 2 sports at once. Basically, was the big root of that argument. He was trying to play baseball and MLB and an NFL game on the exact same day. He's playing for both the Atlanta franchises. He finished up his game with the Falcons as they played the Dolphins, flew to Pittsburgh, got up to snuff with the Braves. They were playing in the NLCS against the Pirates, obviously, and he wanted to be the first guy to play in two sports on the same day, but he never got into the baseball game. So that did not end up happening. And McCarver was critical of, not focusing on baseball alone because they were in the playoffs. And, here he is trying to also play in a football game, and he took offense to that. So it led to the water dousing, as you guys mentioned, in the locker room. So Tim McCarver passes away at age 81. Some NFL news. Saints running back Alvin Kamara indicted Thursday by a grand jury in Nevada for alleged assault back on February the 5th, just about a week and a half ago. Out in Las Vegas, he was with Bengals cornerback Chris Lammons and also two others. Kamara, Lammons, and the two other defendants were indicted, charges of conspiracy to commit battery and battery resulting in substantial bodily harm against the alleged victim. He has a district court date was set for March 2nd, but it will now bypass the Las Vegas Justice Court as a result of that indictment, according to local station KLAS. So the NFL, as always, says they continue to monitor all the legal developments in this matter. And this dates back, like I said, to about a week and a half ago, an incident there. So, apparently this guy says he was waiting in the elevator, ended up getting beat up, and, that's he said. We'll see what happens there. But they do have that surveillance video that corroborated some of the facts that he alleged, and therefore that's why they're moving forward. He's seeking $10 million in damages in a civil lawsuit in Louisiana and a jury trial as well. So we will see what happens ultimately with Alvin Kamara and all of that. But the judicial process, the legal process, I should say, continues on for the Saints running back. Elsewhere, let's see here what I wanted to pivot to. How about Chris Beard discussion here? Chris Beard, former University of Texas head coach, released a statement earlier today, and I don't know if you guys have seen the Message Board Geniuses account where they go and they take like all of the snapshots, the screenshots of various message boards in college athletics, especially after something particularly controversial has happened, because that's when everybody's opinions and brains are really operating at their best. And there's a lot of Texas fans based on that alone that are very much up in arms after seeing all of the latest news with Chris Beard about the fact that Texas moved on from him the way that they did. And that's because yesterday the charges against him were officially dropped. And today he actually released his first comments since he was fired by Texas a few weeks back. The third-degree felony assault charges dropped by Travis County District Attorney on Wednesday. Today, he says, "I am pleased with the announcement that the charges against me have been dismissed. While I always had faith and confidence in the truth and this outcome, it has been extremely challenging to wait patiently and not publicly respond. I'm sorry and deeply remorseful to my family, friends, all my players and staff, both most recent and past, and everyone in my alma mater, the University of Texas, including the fans and supporters who were affected by this situation. I would also like to thank all of those who have reached out to express encouragement and love during this difficult time." So that's what Chris Beard had to say after the charges were dropped. And now I guess we see what the next move is for him. And for Texas, they still have some moves to make as well. Although Rodney Terry's done a heck of a job. But y'all's thoughts on Chris Beard coming out and having some things to say for the first time in a long time?
You think his attorney wrote that?
Not necessarily.
Or proofread it at least.
Yeah.
I think that again, the legality or illegality of whatever happened or the criminal proceedings very quickly became secondary once we knew that the alleged victim wasn't going to press charges. And the question becomes, what is your duty as a head coach, and what is your ethical responsibility in your, albeit in your private life, to make sure that you are a good citizen? And this is not something that Texas in particular, and look, I congratulate them on making a swift decision and being pretty forceful with it, especially, when you saw the correspondence between his attorney and the university and on how this was all going down. that they did that. A lot of places don't. A lot of places let it twist in the wind a whole lot longer. Texas took care of it. And one side of it is Texas kind of has to, because believe me, if you're a rival school and you've got something going on, they will pour gasoline on that fire. So they can't have that turnaround and have that happen to them. And they've let things twist in the wind. They're not pure as the driven snow, as much as they would like you to have you believe. But this decision was the right one, and someone else is going to hire Chris Beard, and that's fine, except for the fact that now you have to sit and wait for this to happen again or not. And
there was nothing that could go wrong about what decision UT made. Only something could have gone bad. That doesn't mean he can't go on somewhere else and win a national title and maybe do what, but by making the decision they made, it's now no longer a part of their issue. I mean, they moved on, whether Rodney Terry ends up getting the job or not. Otherwise, it was just going to be a dark cloud.
I mean, I agree mostly. I mean, he could always have turned around and sued them, and I know that that's probably ineffective because they've got such, a wall built, lawyers-wise and money-wise and all of that, that it's basically just there's no win scenario there, most likely. You're just going to pay millions of dollars in lawyer fees to fight them at every turn, right? So, I mean, yeah, in theory, they could have been maybe pinched by that a little bit. But, yeah, I mean, Chris Beard's name is not clear necessarily, but it is a lot cleaner than it was, I guess, in the eyes of some just a few weeks ago. And it's clean enough that he will be able to move on and go coach somewhere, I think, pretty quickly. It just won't be at Texas, and remains to be seen on whether they made the right move or not. But, yeah, I mean, given the position and given how they've, preached at times to others probably, and as far as making a move on certain things, yeah, they acted quickly, and you have to, I guess, give them credit for that. Although there are plenty of people that are saying they acted too quickly and that based on the charges being dropped, they could have just had him suspended and stayed suspended and then brought him back. But I know some don't agree with that. So really it's in the eye of the beholder on how that all unfolded. There's definitely two sides to it. They shouldn't have fired him when they did. It was too quick, too much of a snap judgment, and then others who feel like, no, they did exactly what they're supposed to. So it just depends on who you ask, but those were his first public comments since all of that went down, and we will see what happens with his career and the Longhorns head coaching spot here over the next few months. It's cool charity note here. Michael Jordan turned 60 years old last Friday. How old does that make you guys feel? Michael Jordan is 60 years old.
Makes me feel like I'm 63.
And the thing that makes it worse, especially since he's bald, and he's always been bald, he doesn't really look 60.
No, he looks older.
I mean, he looks older than he did when he was in his 30s, obviously, but he doesn't look 60, and then I hear it, and it really stings me, right? So
I would have really, if you guys randomly would have said, hey, how old is Michael Jordan? Without doing the math quickly, I would have thought 55.
I would say 55, 57, but yeah, 60, I guess that's a rounder number that makes you feel a little bit older. But he celebrated with a $10 million donation to Make-A-Wish, largest donation ever received from an individual to the Make-A-Wish organization in their 43 years. And he said that he hopes it inspires others to pay it forward and help kids fulfill their wishes as well. But he said for the past 34 years, it's been an honor to partner with Make-A-Wish and help bring a smile and happiness to so many kids. Witnessing their strength and resilience during such a tough time in their lives has truly been an inspiration. So there's plenty of bad things that have been said about Michael Jordan, or maybe not even said, but there's plenty of, like, you kind of know, like, he wasn't the most upstanding citizen necessarily all the time, and not like a criminal either, don't get me wrong, but he just wasn't like squeaky clean.
I would say hard to be around.
Yeah, he wasn't squeaky clean or the easiest to be around all the time, yeah, but pretty cool, deal there. Obviously, he's loaded, but doesn't mean you have to spend it or give it to anybody. And so the largest donation from an individual in their 34 or 43-year history, I think, is notable. And no matter how much money you have, breaking off $10 million, especially when it's helping kids who are really struggling and don't have, the longest lives to lead, I always will commend that. So kudos to Michael Jordan for that $10 million donation to Make-A-Wish. And finally, I don't really have like a whole thing on this, but have you watched Full Swing on Netflix?
I have watched the trailer.
Okay.
And I had Netflix maybe several months ago, and I don't know why I had it. I don't know what was on Netflix of why I had it. But one day I just decided I was going to cancel 15 here and night, not just because it, and I don't even know why I did it, but I don't know why I
so
watched it.
Full Swing yet?
I've seen the trailer, and I probably will now go back and get Netflix because I love golf.
Yeah, I mean, apparently it's really well done. I haven't watched it yet either, but all the episodes are out. There's already some stuff with Rory McIlroy and him talking about Phil Mickelson that's garnering some headlines. He was in the players' locker room, and he was getting a massage. They were out in Georgia, and he was asking why there was Christmas music playing, and he was told that college football season was due to start, which many compare to like Christmas Day for people in the States, that they're celebrating Christmas Day. And it went on and on into basically where he took a rib at Phil Mickelson and finished it off. But I guess I'll read the rest of it. He asked, when was the last time the Dallas Cowboys made the Super Bowl? A massage therapist said 1996, 26 years ago, based on your Josh Allen post, because he had tweeted about Josh Allen. Are you a Josh Allen fan? And the masseuse said that Josh Allen's a PGA Tour fan. And McIlroy said, yes, but he's a Phil Mickelson fan, so I don't know about that. So that was one of the jabs from McIlroy to Mickelson that you can catch on Full Swing. And there's a lot of other golfers that are featured as well. And it's very much in the vein of, the F1 series that got a lot of publicity and play. And it's that same, same deal. So the PGA Tour looking to, grow the game and get some popularity related to this program, and it is their hopes. And obviously they've got this battle with LIV that's been ongoing now, so we'll see how effective this is and maybe boosting the brand and all of that. But I've seen some good reviews on it early on. I'm not even a golf fan. So I'll probably check it out at some point, but I was curious to see if you guys had watched it yet.
I just subscribed back to Netflix.
Have not watched it yet, but I will. And I don't know if there's a bigger disconnect, and then maybe not anymore. I think maybe Phil's been a little exposed in that. But for the longest time, the way that the fans felt about a player in a sport and the way that the other players felt about a player in that about the same guy, there was never a bigger chasm or disconnect. Because I remember when I went to the first time I went to a golf tournament was the Byron Nelson, and Phil Mickelson was, as like with the fans, like winking the gun, and like if you yelled at, "Hey Phil, I love you," he'd be like, "I love you right back, man," and he would just keep going. And Vijay Singh was in the group right behind him, and everyone out there hated Vijay Singh. And while I was there, I met Jason Sobel and had him on the show. I was doing a morning show back then. I had him on the show the next week, and I asked him, I said, "Hey, if you had to," I'm kind of confused about Vijay Singh. He's great, and everybody seems to not like him and love Phil Mickelson. And he's like, what's funny is if you walked to the locker room and took a blind survey of everybody, they'd be like, "Oh, Vijay's an awesome guy. He's just quiet." And they're like, Phil, they're like, I
can see that.
Yeah, and that was how it was. And from that point on, you could kind of like, it's like seeing through the veil, like, oh, okay, this is his financial persona as opposed to his actual one.
What's on camera is not always what's behind the camera in a lot of cases. And I will say there's more to the exchange in regards to McIlroy and Phil, but I don't want to read you the whole episode. So there's definitely another witty response, another little jab at Mickelson. That's a part of that episode. I believe that's the final episode. But apparently well worth checking out for golf fans or non-golf fans alike, and those are a few things that are off the radar.
Thank you, Craig. We appreciate that. I just resubscribed to Netflix for that, so they got me for $19.99, I guess, for as long as it takes me to
$19.99? Isn't
that what it is a month?
I think there's lower options.
I think that's why I jumped. Well, I'll binge it and then cancel again.
Well,
when we come back, Mickey Spagnola, bottom of the hour, Mark Evans II from Arkansas, Pine-Bluff, under the radar in a lot of ways, offensive lineman, NFL draft prospect, but a great story. Scouts know who he is. This is 365 Sports. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it. Marco's Pizza, 5 locations in the Waco area. Owned by Bob Mock. And they're in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, Hewitt, and Robinson. Marco's Pizza. When we order Marco's Pizza, normally what I do is order 2 large pizzas, thin crust. I've always liked it that way. I like the Chicago cut, which is the square cut. And we get the pepperoni magnifico and all meat. And I love it. And everyone else, they do, because obviously it's gone. And if there's anything left, maybe it's because I ordered it late in the show. That eventually is gone by the end of the afternoon, evening, or when people take it home. Marco's Pizza is delicious pizza. Bob Mock's been in the pizza business for a long, long time, and then wanted to have his own stores. And so he started out with one and now has 5. And Marco's Pizza, but also they have salads, sandwiches, and much more. The pizza bowls as well, which are a unique way of having pizza, just in a different type of style. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it.
During the President's Day sales event at Allen Samuels in Waco, get a 2022 Ram 1500 Quad Cab with 0% for 72 months or Ram 1500 Crew Cab with 1.9% for 72 months on all trim levels, only while supplies last.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, locally owned pizza place that's out of this world. Everything from the dough, the sauce, the sausage topping is made fresh in-house. Not to mention the amazing pizza pillows, the chicken wings are to die for. Try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries or tots, plus great specials on food and drink every single day. Shorty's is also the perfect spot to watch the game with your friends. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Tell them Paul sent you by.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and 2-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
This is 365 Sports. It's time for our weekly segment with Mickey Spagnola of DallasCowboys.com.
Prescott fires, caught, Lamb, touchdown.
Brought to you by the First National Bank of Central Texas, with 5 locations to serve you.
Mickey Spagnola, DallasCowboys.com. Everybody now focusing in on after the game ended Sunday night. Some had already focused in on the offseason, including the combine and pro days and all of the above. Eventually, the draft, free agency in the middle of that, scheduled sometime in May. Mickey Spagnola. Mickey, of all, I asked this of, I think, John Machota yesterday, of all of what's about to happen, so many different parts of the offseason, which one do you like to dig in the most?
Probably more so the draft than free agency, because there's so many moving parts in free agency, and everybody wants to start digging in now. But a lot of these guys end up either getting franchised or signed before actual free agency begins. So once it begins, I find it quite interesting. And trying maybe to explain the ramifications of signing some of these guys and how much you have to overpay usually those first week, the first few days of free agency, when everybody starts bidding on, a couple of the guys. And I don't know, you get a lot of bang for your buck. So I kind of like maybe explaining that more realistically to people than saying, oh, got to have that guy. And then you end up overpaying. And a couple of years later, you're going, oh, why did I do that?
Mickey, is there, outside of quarterback, and even quarterback, I guess, with Cooper Rush being a free agent has to be addressed, is there a position on the roster when you really look at it that the Cowboys don't have to at least spend some time on assessing draft needs? They're not big first-day free agency people anyway, but free agency and how they address those things?
Yeah. So you want me to eliminate some positions, is that right?
Yeah. I was trying to think of where they don't have to at least spend a significant point, like assessing where they are.
See, a lot of that will depend on what they do with their own guys, right? Mm-hmm. And that's usually their first item of business. And they've got 19 free agents, along with one restricted guy, Terrence Steele, who obviously you want back because they look at him as their starting right tackle. But you got to hope he's ready to start the season after suffering the torn ACL. It was about, 4 or 5 games left in the season. So he's going to be cutting it pretty close. Yeah, I mean, backup quarterback will be an issue. What do you do at the running back position? Are you keeping Pollard? How much do you have to pay? Can you keep Zeke too? So there's so many things that have to be answered before, you actually get into the free agent market. Can you pick up somebody at linebacker? But what if you re-sign Leighton Vander Esch? And you've got Micah Parsons, maybe playing more linebacker than defensive end. So I think it comes down to maybe who's available and what you have to pay to get them. Can you enhance your roster with a veteran or 2 or 3, like they have over the last couple of years? If you think about it, J-Ron Kurst came here on a 1-year deal for basically minimum. And he turns into, one heck of a player. Malik Hooker, they signed for 2 years, but it wasn't all that much. And those guys ended up being good players. But I don't see, where the Cowboys can, sign somebody to a 4-year, $60 million deal. I just don't see that happening.
Mickey, has Will McClay's impact been more free agency or the draft? I know it's both, but which one of those do you feel like he's brought them something even better?
Well, I think for sure the draft, if you look at the last several years on guys they've been able to, pick up, guys that and not just first-round picks. If you look at how they supplemented the roster with second, third-round picks, 4th-round pick. I think people forget, and a lot of people weren't high on him. I thought he was going to be a good player, Tyler Biadasz. They traded back into the 4th round late to pick him, and he was a Pro Bowl substitute this year. That's how close he was to making the Pro Bowl as your starting center. When you can pick up guys like that, you really supplement your roster. If you can hit on guys 3rd, 4th, 5th round, 6th round, I believe Donovan Wilson was a 6th-round pick out of A&M, and he's turned into a guy. I know he's unrestricted, but, boy, you'd certainly like to have him back, but they'll be at the mercy of, market value. Same thing with a guy like Anthony Brown. Found him in the later rounds and turns out to be a starter that you seriously missed this year when he ruptured his Achilles. So I would say more so the draft, because it supplements your roster so greatly and helps the salary cap. But they've done a pretty good job with some of these free agents they've brought in also.
Mickey, they're in a position where, if they do, the majority of the roster and the 19 free agents kind of works out in their favor, when the draft rolls around at 26 is kind of a weird spot historically for the Cowboys. And looking at their, kind of key positions of need, do you see this? Because I've been working on it a lot the last few days. This to me seems like one where I would not be shocked at all if they were easily talked into trading back, just based on the amount of players and picks that they could, make based on their needs, and compared to other years where maybe you've got to get a tackle. This is not necessarily the case with them right now.
Right. I think you have to wait and see. You have to wait and see what's available at that point. What's the value at 26 compared to maybe the 5th pick in the 2nd round, if you could pick that up and something else. So I think, those are always those things where I think it's a possibility. You keep that in your mind, but you won't know until how the draft, turns out. I mean, if you think about a couple of years ago, they're thinking linebacker, pass rusher, and then suddenly at 17, CeeDee Lamb sitting there. And it's like, okay, that changes my thoughts, right? I got to take that guy. I think it's a possibility, but I don't think you go into the draft with the intent of doing that. I think you got to see how things play out and then be quick on your feet. But you also have to find a trading partner. You've got to find somebody that wants to get back into the first round that late, and how much are they going to give me to take my spot? So there's a lot of variables there that you have to consider, especially when you've got, 10, 15 minutes to make that decision.
Mickey, thank you. The offseason has begun. We have a new Super Bowl champion, although 2 of the last 4 years in the Chiefs. The Eagles try to regroup as they hit the offseason. The Cowboys are right there with them. Mickey Spagnola with us Thursdays from DallasCowboys.com. We're going to stay right here, Garrett. Mark Evans II tried to call in at the very end of Mickey's segment, and so we'll get to him as well. I don't know if you saw this or not. Some of you may have seen it, but Texas A&M, the 12th Man Fund, pushing the NIL envelope. This is a story by Andy Staples in theathletic.com, and another way for them to try to work the NIL that's available to athletes at Texas A&M.
Well, we need to talk about that a bit more in depth at some point, because that's way more to it than just a mention. So yeah, we're gonna have to grab that at some point. We got some bit more time to discuss that.
We will. That's a great point. Mark Evans II, Arkansas Pine-Bluff offensive lineman, joins us now on 365 Sports. And Mark, I spoke with someone that knows you on staff, and some great stories about you when you arrived at Arkansas Pine-Bluff. But first of all, how are you enjoying right now with all of what has to be a whirlwind leading up to the Combine?
I'm really enjoying it right now. It's all new for me because, I never really experienced nothing like this before. So just being able to experience this because, I didn't really get highly recruited out of college. So it's kind of like, I'm getting that period of time that I missed back then. So I'm kind of getting it right now. So I'm kind of enjoying it.
What is it like when people who, you're almost a name on the list to a lot of guys, right? All right, let's see. Mark Evans, Arkansas Pine-Bluff. All right, kid, go. And then they go, oh, why do we know about Mark Evans from Arkansas Pine-Bluff? What's that feeling like when you show them what you can do?
That feeling like that is great because I feel like a lot of people doubt me because, depending on my size, also, the school I went to and stuff like that. So a lot of people look at me, they really don't expect a lot. So, when I'm able to go out there and show them like I really do and, able to earn their respect, kind of like, yeah, I told you so. Like, all you had to do is just believe. So, it's a great feeling, see me when, kind of changed their perspectives on me.
Do you remember this? I got a couple of stories about you when you arrived on campus. Cameo Stokes, and you know Cameo, great.
I know Cameo real well.
He loves you. He said that when you first arrived on campus, you walked around in a Texas T-shirt, like a shirt that was the UT logo on it, and yet you're playing for Arkansas Pine-Bluff. You're not the only college player that has ever done that before, but his conversation to you was, hey, you're one of us now. You need to be proud of where you're playing college football. How much do you remember that story?
I remember that story, but I think he kind of got it wrong. It was the Oklahoma, kind of Oklahoma like throwback, like one of them throwback shirts. It was like one of their throwback logos with the cowboy and all that. So I kind of had that one on. I had it on because the stock it looked good what I had on that day. So that's kind of why I wear it. So, it really wasn't me like ripping Oklahoma, gold Cowboys like that. I just like the way it looked. So I put it on. He was like, he was rep the school and stuff like that. So I remember that conversation though, sir.
How much has Teron Armstead helped you, a former player at Pine-Bluff who's in the NFL, as far as maybe giving you some notice and heads up on what to expect?
He's helped me a lot in this process. I'm able to call him. I got his number and everything. I've been to his house and stuff like that. So, I'm able to hit him up or whenever I want to, So if I got a question in my mind, something kind of bothers me, I'm able to text him, call him. He's able to give me insight. So, it's great having the person that went through this same process from your school, played the same exact position and stuff like that. So to be able to talk to him has been a great outlet, and he's been a great beacon of hope for me as well.
You play at an HBCU, and we've seen lately, kind of a resurgence in players going there, people wanting to build those athletic programs back up. How much do you wear that as a badge of honor now to be an NFL draft prospect from an HBCU to even open up even more opportunity for guys not only from Arkansas Pine-Bluff, but from all of the schools?
It's an honor to me, honestly, because I'm able to just go out there and put on for HBCUs and prove that, that we have players that are worthy of, making it to the next level as well. So, as far as, just having people coming after me and moving on to the next level and looking up to me, it's kind of like I got my younger brother. He plays at HBCU. He goes to Peregrine University. So, to have him looking up to me and, to actually be out here showing him that this can be done from, HBCU school. It no matter what school you go to, it's kind of like, it's a big thing for me, honestly. So just to be able to tell people and prove people, it don't matter where you go to school at. If you can play, they're going to find you.
Well, and that's something I think Cameo was talking about, that if you're good, they will find you. That's the case even in high school when you were at C.E. King, which, of course, has produced some college football and talent into the future. When did you know maybe that you were better than just a good college football player?
It kind of, I don't even remember. I know it kind of struck me like it probably happened when I was in college. I was kind of doing stuff. I was just trying to be consistent and stuff like that. So, with me being the person I am, I never just really paid it on mine. It was just me being, wanting to be great and be the best person for myself. So, I never really just sit back and compare myself to other people. I was always just wanting to be the best me I can be. And honestly, that kind of turned out to me being, one of the top offensive linemen in the nation. So.
And by the way, Mark was up for the Willie Rofe Award, and everyone understands the greatness of Willie Rofe and what he also ended up being, a Pro Football Hall of Famer. How much do your nieces mean to you?
My nieces and nephew mean the world to me, man. Knowing I got them looking up to me, I'm trying to reason me and my brother are the reason my nephew wants to play football as well. So, just to be able to hear him talking, how he talk about his uncle saying he want to be like uncles and all that, that's a great thing to have. My nieces and they all mean the world to me, so I know I got all them looking up to me. I'm kind of a father figure in their life, so, I just want to do the best I can to provide for them.
What if scouts told you, if much, what as far as your strength, your hands, your quick feet, what have they kind of said, or what have you learned?
A lot of scouts tell me that I'll be playing center most likely, coming from left tackle, that's kind of a big, transition. But a lot of scouts tell me they like my athleticism as well. They say I'm smart as well. My football instincts are very keen, so, but athleticism, the way I move is a big thing, that's kind of going around what I keep saying when I'm talking to scouts.
I was just reading an article online about you. Your senior year of high school, you lost your home because of Hurricane Harvey.
Yes, sir.
That had to be unbelievably difficult, and it was just a terrible event. How'd you get through all that, and how much stronger are you and your family on the back end of what you've learned coming through that experience?
After going through that, man, I definitely feel way more stronger. Getting through that I really was relying on my family a lot. It was always just all of us, just kind of be a tight knit, just relying on each other and everything. So, being in that one bedroom, you know, it wasn't no pirates. You know, we just always around each other, just talking to each other and all that. Just trying, you know, make sure we was, you know, crush for each other and leaning on each other as well. So, you know, I was just kind of feeding on my mama. I was just trying to say something for my younger brother and my sister as well. You know, I didn't kind of want to be the one that was looking down. Nothing like that, because, you know, I had them looking at me too as well. So, you know, I just want to be the one that showed everybody that, you know, it's going to be all right. You know, that having that mindset, you know, it could always be worse. You know, that good's going to come, having faith in the Lord and all that. Really was what got us through that whole process as a whole.
By the way, I mentioned earlier Armstead is Turin Armstrong, who's a former Pine-Bluff star who's now in the NFL. Where did you get the nickname All-American?
All-American. Cameo called. I remember Cameo talking to me when I first got on campus. You know, I'm walking around. I'm just, you know, happy to get, you know, off from the school. I didn't have them offer. So, you know, I'm walking around Pine-Bluff. You know, I ain't care if it was, you know, the worst school in the world. You know, I was going to go because, you know, that was school that looked out to me, reached out to me. So, Cameo was the one that was like, you know, you're going to be All-American one day. I'm just like 18. I'm like, man, what this dude talking about? He didn't know what he's talking about. So I'm just walking around, you know, just really enjoying it. But, you know, it kind of always stuck with me. So, you know, when I got my first All-American accolade, you know, he came back to me. He always tells me every time I get him, he's like, yeah, I told you you're going to be All-American one day. So, you know, that's kind of what this guy gave me a nickname. You know, Cameo really the only one that called me that, you know, and a couple guys on the team called me that as well. But, you know, that's kind of how the name originated from.
What was your Shrine Bowl experience like, being around all those top players, all those guys fighting for the same spots that you're going to be fighting for and continue fighting for? But what was that kind of experience to be in an all-star setting with a bunch of people?
That experience is really fun. You know, I got the chance to, you know, make, you know, connections and relationship with people from all across the school, all across the, you know, the nation, you know, top players as well. So, you know, just to be out there, you know, being an event like that was like, you know, something that was like totally cool, you know, seeing different type of people walking around, all the scout stuff around the event was just amazing. So, you know, just being able to get in that establishment, being in an atmosphere like that was just crazy. You know, it was just like, I don't know, it was just kind of like a whirlwind, you know, it's kind of everything happened so fast, you know, just being able to get just to the schedule and all that was just really fun, you know. It was a great experience. Eric Galco did a good job of, you know, setting everything up and having a great week in Vegas.
Did you feel like there was any, you know, did you feel like you were taking much of a – I mean, because obviously Pine-Bluff's not the biggest school in the world, but, you know, there's people from all over the country. Did you feel like there was really that much of a separation talent-wise or skill-wise from what you were accustomed to playing?
I really don't feel like it's that much – oh, my bad. I ain't mean
No, go ahead.
I really don't feel like it's that much of a difference in the players. You know, I feel like I didn't play better players in the SWAC, you know. It's players, you know, all over the world. I just feel like, you know, you got the stigma that small school ABC, you don't have good players like that. So, you know, I kind of just feel like, you know, that's kind of wrong. So, you know, people around taking the time and they kind of just, you know, downplaying, you know, your level of competition and all that. But really, it's like, I really didn't have no trouble really adjusting to. I just had a little trouble adjusting to the interior, like moving to the inside. But, you know, I feel like I kind of handled that well, and I ended the week great, you know, with a good game.
Had you ever snapped the ball before?
Not in the game, not in the live setting like that at all. I never snapped the ball in the practice or nothing like that. So, you know, I was just kind of getting out there and just trying to show them what I can do.
But one of the traits you have aren't your hands, and you would think a guy your size, big, strong, quick feet, obviously playing tackle, but don't you have, like, extremely strong grip in hands?
Yes, sir, most definitely. I got bigger hands for somebody my size. I know scouts tell me that all the time. So, you know, be able to just latch on somebody. And when I latch on to them, you know, I'm not letting go. So, you know, it's kind of like my hands get on you, you done. The whole fight over with.
Have you ever worked like on a car engine or something like that with you know,
no, sir.
Like you could just twist it a nut without a wrench?
No, I never did nothing like that before. But I probably could twist a nut, like, but it probably wouldn't be too tight, you know. They'd probably be just tight enough to sit there, have to come back, you know, double back with a wrench or something like that.
All right, so let's make it more real world. If I had a jar that I could not open, like if I handed it to you, are you talking like that?
Yeah, I'd probably be able to open it like nothing. I wouldn't want to try to embarrass them like that, so I might, you know, make it look a little hard. But I would be able to.
Oh, I'm glad you told me that. The other day I was trying to open up a bottle of queso dip, my God, I had to wet like a towel and twist it, and it took everything I had. I should have just brought it to you.
Oh yeah, man, you should have.
Well, you're also 40 years older and not going to the NFL. So there's a little bit of a difference. What was that like to get the invite to the Combine? Was that something that you had dreamed about or thought much about? I mean, obviously you think about it when you're in the process, but was that a dream come true in some ways?
Yes, sir. And why? Because I remember I was just talking about this with my brother. We was working out at the field over this past summer at CE King Field. Shout out to the Panthers. So, we was working out there. We just talking about it. Sit down. He kind of laid everything out for me. I'm sitting there just kind of, just talking about the whole thing as a whole and all that. He just sat there and told me, like, you're going to play good your last year. You're going to get an invite to one of these games. You don't get an invite to the combine, but you got to go out there and kill the combine. You're going to get drafted. Everything he was saying kind of simply came true. So, when I was able to get it, because I was kind of on the cusp, because I was like, I didn't know because I didn't receive the email or nothing like that. So when I got the actual confirmation that I had made it, I was just like, wow, I was just kind of relief in the dream come true as well. There's nothing I have to worry about, but I was ready to go out there, and show the world what I can do.
Well, we had somebody on the chat room. We're on YouTube, and we've got an audience from coast to coast. And somebody on the chat room, Japhis, mentioned that you were a star in the SWAC, and that you were the one who did a great job pass blocking some of the best defensive or pass rushers among the HBCUs that you played. Your thoughts about this, somebody watching our show that knew you?
That's amazing. Shout out to whoever just gave me that comment. I really appreciate that because, being an offensive lineman in the SWAC as well, it's kind of like, ain't nobody really checking for you. You're not a quarterback or a running back or one of them starting defensive ends like you mentioned. So, know that there's somebody out there watching my game and really appreciate it. It's amazing. So, I really just appreciate whoever gave you that comment. Thank you so much. You seem to be a really happy young man. Have you always been that way? Yes, sir, for the most part. I've been through a lot my whole life. Throughout the entirety of my life. So, I've just been able to just kind of keep that bright side, look forward to the bright side in life, because I didn't been through, more than probably your average 23-year-old have been through. So, just to be able to just kind of keep that positive outlook on life, just kind of keep me happy. It's a blessing to me wake up every day and do what I'm doing. A lot of people want to be in my shoes, so I just take every day as it is and just appreciate it. So Japhis Cavill was the man that I loved watching him play against some of the better ranked defensive ends and pass rushers. He loved the fact you're on the show with us as well. So how many interviews have you done with either teams, and I know the Combine will be a battering ram of that, and how much of being on this show or other shows as you move on will be important to you as you develop and be in front of the media? I've had to be honest, I have had a ton of interviews with scouts since his last past fall camp. I probably talked to almost all the NFL teams that came through there. College, every team came through there, but maybe like one or two, honestly, and I could be wrong. They probably all didn't came through there. So, I was able to sit down and talk to all of them. Coming from a smaller school, I was kind of the only one they were scouting. So, I was able to get, critical, prep in that area, that situation, just be able to, I know how to talk to scouts, getting their insights of what they think about me, also asking, how I could have did better in certain interviews and answer certain questions, big help as well. Because, when I got back to the Shrine Bowl, it was kind of like, I was seeing the same scouts that I was seeing throughout the year. So I was able to get, a lot of good practice, interviewing and all that type of stuff. So, that's kind of a big help to help me out in that area. And, just being on these shows, it's a great way to, develop, media training and all that, knowing what to say, knowing what not to say, knowing how to answer questions and all that. So, being on this show has been great help. It's been great, talking to you all so far. So, I've been very happy to be on this show. So, it's kind of thank you for helping me out with the media training and all that. But, this show really helped me out more than you even can know. Every time you do another one, you just learn a little bit more. You've done a great job. Love your passion. You can tell your personality. I've heard you're a very humble but quiet leader, but when you're on the football field, that's when you do your talking. But you're also involved in one thing about you is the community and being a part of helping and teaching and spending time with kids in the community. How much has that meant to you? That's been a lot to me because, all the kids are, that's the next generation. So, they're down the line, they can be the next future lawyers, doctors, and whatnot. So, being able to, just kind of be accustomed and learning up, being able to somebody they can lean on, it's been a great opportunity. Pine-Bluff area is kind of like, it's a low income area, it's not, the best area in the city or nothing like that. So, being able to, be around there, go around to the schools, talk to the kids, read to the kids, stuff like that, it's kind of been great. So, I remember in school, we had Donuts for Dad and stuff like that, I never had anybody coming there for me. So, I just always, said, I wanted to be the one that was coming there for kids, to volunteer for kids, stuff like that. So, that's kind of what led to me on that about the community and all like that, Just because, I honestly just, love kids. So, that's kind of just something that, I enjoy helping. I enjoy helping people. Thank you very much, Mark. Good luck. Mark Evans II from Pine-Bluff, Arkansas, Pine-Bluff offensive lineman based
on what he said. It looks like he could project to a center, 6'4", about 295, big hands, and just love the just amazing personality. And great to have him on again. Thanks to Lauren Birchfield in setting these up for us, and we'll have many more and even more once the combine is over. And I am wrong. It's Taron Armstrong. I know Craig gets.
No, it's Armstead.
I kept saying Armstead. Excuse me, Taron Armstead, who was someone who's been a role model for Mark Evans II. We appreciate his time. This is 365 Sports, and Paul's Top 5 is next.
Cars priced right both day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance, and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Hi, this is Paul Catalina. I recently got engaged to the love of my life, but the most important thing that I had to do before I popped the question was get that perfect ring. And I know nothing about rings. So I went to the wedding ring store, Boozer's Jewelers on Valley Mills Drive. I knew I needed a custom design, and that's exactly what they do. 9 out of 10 of their engagement rings are designed in-house. The entire process took less than a month, and they were great every step of the way. Great options on financing, excellent selection, and talented designers. My fiance and I get nonstop compliments on the ring. I only deserve credit for doing the smartest thing I could, walking into Boozers and letting them work their magic. Your one-of-a-kind fiance deserves a one-of-a-kind ring, and that's what you get at Boozers. Boozers Jewelers, the wedding ring store on Valley Mills Drive.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:45. Or is it 5:55? Either way, it's the Top 5.
Before we get to that, it's 5:47, by the way, today. We missed a super chat earlier from Chris. The chat just kind of rapidly went after that. So, hey guys, Pitt is currently leading the ACC in basketball. What teams do you expect to finish the season as the conference champions in the other Power 5 conferences? And I do think that Pitt will probably hold on in the ACC, but Virginia's also in the tie with them, and Miami's good, but I do think it'll be Pitt at the end of it. personally. In the Big 12, your guess is as good as mine. I mean, there are 4 teams reasonably that could win it now here in the next couple weeks.
I think that can just get to, like all of these could, but I think that's just a prediction made better closer to the games because you don't know who gets hurt between now and then, or what run somebody goes on. So I think even with that being said, still, if we get to that point, it's going to be you ask 5 people, there's 4 different answers to who wins the Big 12 conference. I mean, it's just that tight, and you get into a tournament setting when it's just line them up and play them. You really have no clue how that'll shake out because everybody truly could beat everybody 1 through 10, and so on any given night, and that's what makes it a lot of fun. So I think it's Kansas or Baylor or Texas or whoever else you want to try and throw into that mix. But that one's a crapshoot for sure.
Yeah, I'll take Purdue in the Big 10.
That makes sense.
I think I'll take Purdue in the Big 10 and
Bama in the SEC. Are you going with the Tide?
Yeah. I mean, they did what? They just lost their first. I didn't even realize that they were unbeaten in the SEC.
A&M continues the hot streak, or Tennessee jumps up and snatches it.
It'll be Alabama or Tennessee. Although Tennessee got smoked by somebody like Georgia recently. But I'm gonna Alabama's really good. They're really good. They've been there, and so I'll not that that's any kind of a huge prediction. They're in first place, but I will take Bama.
Yeah, and I'll take UCLA in the pack. They're 2 games up on Arizona.
We're talking about Power 5. Oh wait, no, I'm just kidding. Kidding.
Oh,
God. I'll take
just
USC
kidding.
in the pack. I'll take USC in the pack. So, but again, the hardest one to figure is going to be the Big 12. I mean, there's more, and there's more crossover on the schedule, I think, among those teams in the last couple weeks than there are maybe in some of the other leagues, especially the SEC, which is bigger. So you may not even have to see that. All right, the top 5, the 5 most Big 12-ish schools in the Pac-12. These are the schools that are the most Big 12-like, and I will tell you, I did not include Arizona in this just to maybe pivot away because there's another school pretty close to them that's in the list, just to get a little different.
Why?
You'll see. Again, you'll see. You'll see. Whose top 5 is it? That's the rule.
The shows.
It damn well isn't. Number 5.
That's like the list you did earlier this week that of the 7 teams or teams that won't join the Big 12, and the ones you eliminated are the only ones that might join the Big 12.
Which one are you talking about?
The one when you said these are the teams most likely to join the Big 12 if they add anybody, and you eliminated the entire conference that we're talking about that might have teams join the Big 12.
So I'm doing.
Go ahead.
Again, there's a method to my madness. I cannot. But number 5, Colorado. They're the most. They could be number 1, but I don't think they necessarily want this because they have to come back to the Big 12. But they were in it already before. So they are a very Big 12-ish team because they were Big 12, a founding member, in fact, of the Big 12. They're also a Big 8-ish team, for that matter. But Colorado fits in the Big 12, should it come to that point, which, again, I don't think is imminent.
Won the Big 12 one year.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, upset Texas in a big game.
2001? Yeah.
Yeah, in the conference championship game, and derailed Texas' grand hopes that year by doing so. But I mean, like you said, I mean, it's pretty obvious they were in the Big 12 for longer than they've been in the Pac-12. I think, right? 96 to what year did they leave?
They left in 10 with Nebraska. With Nebraska.
Yeah, they've been in there
12
longer.
years, and it was 14 or so.
Yeah, so I mean, they make sense. I mean, Dion's a guy who's got a lot of experience down in this area as well. Lived here a long time, coached here, played here in the state of Texas, all that jazz. So, I mean, Colorado's the most obvious as far as similarities because they were one of us, so to speak, back in the day.
Number 4, Washington State. Look, it is not close to anything other than Moscow, Idaho, which is the home of the University of Idaho. But Pullman, Washington, much like Ames or Kansas State or West Virginia, they are kind of out there on their own. They are very different than the other state school, the big state school, and Washington is there, in the big city. Washington State's remote. It is, their fans are passionate, very much like a Kansas State or an Iowa State. And, if they've got good stuff going on, where are you going to go in Pullman, Washington? Not very far, unless you want to go, shoot an elk or catch a walleye, then yeah. But otherwise, I mean, you've got a good captive audience there. Much like, I would compare it very favorably to Manhattan or Ames or Morgantown.
Yeah, it's those places to a certain degree, but just really far away compared to those places, and that's why they're a school that is certainly banking on the Pac-12 sticking together. They really don't have probably a great option outside of that. I mean, it's that, or it's probably a step down. I think that's just being realistic about the situation, because there's not necessarily anything that makes them such a pull that if things were to fall apart, the Big 12's like, we got to get Washington State on the phone. And look, I say that knowing full well that there's plenty of Big 12 teams that didn't get the call and all that, so we can go ahead and roll through all those comments. I get that. But, yeah, if you're lining up the Big 12 and saying take your first few picks at the Pac-12, you can take anybody that you want. Let's just get rid of all of, like, the actuality of what's going on. I don't think they're very high up on that list. But, like as far as like kind of how they are, so to speak, yeah, I think that they'd fit in, with the Big 12, as far as some of the similarities in, the town and those types of things. Sure.
Yeah.
Manhattan is about 20,000 larger population than Pullman. I just was curious, 32,000 to 54,000, but I'm sure most everybody in Pullman's wearing their colors, like Gene Taylor mentioned about Manhattan.
And very much so, and Clinton, I hope you're still with us here. Oregon State, for that matter. And look, the Oregon State, Washington State ag schools, much like Oklahoma State is, and thanks for Wet Blanket for bringing that up. So you've got those different things, like Tech. I mean, you're out there, and you are the thing in that spot. And that's why I'm kind of lining it up as those are the ones that are most similar. And look, I'm sure that, Oregon and Washington are in the water, then they're going to leap over Oregon State and Washington State. But Oregon State and Washington State, if it came down to it, if those are the schools that you'd have to take to expand, don't actually, aren't that, far afield of what the majority of the Big 12 is, or at least especially the current Big 12. Before you start adding the new teams that are all from bigger spots.
Clint Moses' day, because he comes on every day with the Beavers. He goes, Washington State makes great cheese, too.
Oh, I did not know that.
I did not know that.
It's good to know. Number 2, even though they don't seem to want to be in the Big 12, Utah.
Now that it's Oregon State for that matter. But
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think most of them really want to. I think they'd rather keep things the way that they are and not have to shuffle the deck. But Utah, and I swapped out Utah for Arizona just so we could have this discussion. But Utah fits just like Arizona does, but Utah doesn't seem to really want to. And I think the biggest reason is they don't want to be in a conference with BYU. I don't think that the rivalry's fine, but having to play against them and everything where it counts in the league, it's just not something they want. And so while they would fit very well in the league, I just think that it is absolutely not their preference to do so unless they had to.
Yeah, I think probably the biggest reason why would be because it would make them look silly. Yeah. You went and joined the Pac-12 and got to have your little bragging rights over whoever you wanted to have bragging rights over, whether it was an at-the-time independent BYU or whoever else you wanted to name that wasn't in a Power 5. All of a sudden you're in a Power 5, and just, a few years later after you start winning it, it's not even a Power 5 anymore, and now you got to go crawl over to the conference that's got the team that you don't want to have anything to do with. Kind of a bad look if you're a Ute. So, yeah, if I was them, I wouldn't want to have that happen either, because it makes you look, not top tier, or second rate just seems to sound too harsh, but it kind of does make you look a little second rate if that were to be the way that it unfolded in this imaginary scenario. So, yeah, I think, in particular, it's a Power 5 and it's when you're winning right now. So who would want to leave the Pac-12 when you're winning the Pac-12 and you've got this avenue where you're in a really good spot, and an expanded playoff means you're probably in that sucker more often than not if you keep up the way that you are right now, with obviously trading probably off here and there with the Oregons and the Washingtons. But, yeah, I don't blame them, and I see where they're coming from, because that would be kind of a bad look in a few different ways.
Number 1, Arizona State.
Would it almost be like you leave home and then you have to come back?
It would be like Colorado coming back to the Big 12. After hey, see you suckers, we're going to go make this money. We're going to be out west. And all of a sudden, a few years later, you're back and you're worse for wear, and you're
Yeah.
Pay, let us back in. That wouldn't look good.
Here's another reason Utah should fight to keep the pack together at all costs. They've won the damn thing 2 years in a row.
That's what I just said.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like it would be foolish of them to be like, yeah, we don't need this. It's going great for them.
They won the conference. They've got they just said the expanded playoff. They're going to be in that sucker. Like last year, an expanded playoff. They're in the playoff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so yeah, why would you want to leave that? It's a Power 5 that you're winning. And even if Oregon or Washington jump up and have, better teams one year, you're still in the top mix the way that it's set up. And it's not exactly because it's not exactly like a Colorado scenario, but it's not one you want to be a part of, where you're having to walk away from this scenario that you pumped up and we're so happy about.
Yeah. And number one, Arizona State. I think Arizona State, honestly, it kind of boggles my mind that they are not great in everything. It really does. Garrett and I were there,
tremendous campus.
Just over a week ago. The campus is unbelievable. They've got great academic programs, but they're also, not impossible to get into. So if you're not like a super student, like you can get through and not feel like you're at Stanford or Duke or somewhere like that. It has nothing other than an ocean view that you wouldn't want anywhere else.
No, my dad got his master's from there.
But I don't
I would love to have gone there.
Yeah, they are not cashing in like what they have, maybe more than most in the country. But I do think that they fit very well in their profile inside the Big 12, especially when you talk about the new Big 12. And look, you can swap out Arizona for any of these schools. And we had Jason Shear on. Another reason I took it off because we'd already kind of been through that. But Arizona State, you could swap them out almost anywhere and it'd be fine. They would work all over the place. They're not making it work in the Pac-12 well enough, and maybe that's why there's some dissension there as far as, there's some upset and hurt feelings as it was going in. But, again, you could really have the best of all worlds if you're Arizona State, and I don't know how they have not capitalized on that.
It made terrible football coaching hires.
Exactly.
That's why. I mean, that's the biggest part of the reason why is they've made terrible football coaching hires. I think Kenny Dillingham will change that, but Herm Edwards wasn't exactly inspired, and neither were the immediate predecessors to that.
Todd Graham.
Yeah, I just don't think that those were very good choices, but I think Kenny Dillingham having the experience out there, the love for the place, and the fact the Pac-12's not, not the hardest, league to conquer. It's not like you're joining the SEC right out of the gates. It's manageable. It's he can navigate that. He knows the lay of the land. He knows what they need, what they have, and what they don't have. So it's not like foreign and this giant mountain to climb. So I'm very curious to see how he does, because if it doesn't work for him, then I really don't know who it's going to work for.
Yeah.
I mean, I really don't.
The high school talent seems to be getting better, and as far as a little bit more known and deeper in Arizona.
Well, you got their Bijans and guys like that. Every year they've got some high-profile guys, but it's just not necessarily the deepest, in the world.
They've got some dudes in that top 300 or so, and sometimes a little bit underrated. I mean, it's a spacious. I love Arizona. I love the weather. I love the city. Once lived there back before they ever exploded. It's a beautiful place.
Spencer
Arizona
Rattler's
State
from
would be
Arizona.
great. Yep,
That's another
absolutely. All right, thank you, Paul, for your top 5. There's a little argument going on about whether I can. People have said that they've had to back down before on that. Top 5. It's your top 5.
It is.
All right, Faith Lynch is here because she's about to do an interview a little bit later on with a Baylor football player, I believe, for something that she'll have up on the site a little bit later. Garrett Ross, thank you. Jack McKenzie, thank you. Emery Winter, thank you. We will be back again tomorrow. We wrap up the week tomorrow at 3. Don't forget Sports Tonight at 10:30 tonight on the CW channel. This is 365 Sports.